UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
Very good afternoon to you. Just gone 4 o'clock. Thank you to the effervescent Dr. David Bull. Is he a doctor or a con artist? I've no idea, but he's back tomorrow afternoon after 1 o'clock. Look at the light today. I look like I'm a shroud this afternoon. Welcome to Talk Drive. Talk, of course, the home of free speech and common sense, and your station, the station that gives you the opportunity to have your say about the news of the day. The A-team are assembled. Our Jude is in. She's taking the calls. We have a work experience today. My son, 16-year-old, he is now, Henry Kyle, is in the building with his new sharp haircut, so he might well answer the phones as well. 0344 499 1000 is that number. You can get us via WhatsApp to Lanky Ryan, top producer. Miserable git today, I'm not sure why, maybe the shirt. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. We'll get on with it. I don't know about you. Tell me I'm wrong, tell me I'm right. This whole tariff war, you know, is Trump going to increase tariffs by 25%? Are they going to respond? What's it going to do for our economy? As I understand it, and I'm reasonably, I mean, I'm not massively intelligent, but I sort of understand the country's screwed financially. Nothing works. We don't seem to have any money. We seem to have migration out of control. We have a police force that's more interested in arresting people for hurty words than actual crimes. And we're sitting here going, what would it mean if Donald Trump imposes tariffs? I have absolutely no idea. And if you want to talk about that, I mean, go ahead. Whatever. Personally, I want to start with a story because this is the day that a survey about the NHS and our satisfaction or dissatisfaction with it started. It's dropped to a historic low. Only 1 in 5 people are happy with how it's working. The figure of 21% for last year is a drop, of course it is, from 24% the year before. Our Georgie, who works and does an amazing job here at Talk, just told a story which to me sums up the NHS, and I won't get into too much detail, but she goes to the doctors on Friday, gets some medication, it doesn't work, she Googles it, they've given her the wrong one, they've given her the cheapest one, so she rings up, the doctor's playing golf, he can't see her, eventually 4 hours later they say go see a pharmacist, the pharmacist's out, the pharmacist will call you back, 24 hours later the pharmacist apparently who works from home, the phone's not working, goes back to the GP and says I can't do anything anyway. I don't understand the people, and David just made the point, there are people in the profession who will say we need more money, you get £200 billion, and even those sort of lines, oh, you know, there's diversity and managers, it's not fit for purpose. We need to knock the NHS off its revered pedestal and say there's more of us, of course, because we let more in. We're older, we get more iller, too many people jump at the NHS. I just think they need to understand it is not good enough. That is my opinion. What is yours? 0344 499 1000, the French. Not my favourite. France has finally admitted that it needs to start intercepting more small boats and has even raised the possibility of taking back illegal migrants from Britain. I will tell you this about Macron, who I wouldn't trust ever. I reckon they're saying this because suddenly people in the United Kingdom are waking up and going, do you know what? We give you 500 million quid a year and you do absolutely jack for it. We should stop that money. I've said it until I am blue in the face. We should make it less easy to come, sorry for all the left-wing bedwetters, and we should say, let's try and do right by certain people, yes, but let's also look after the British people, because at the end of the day, right, so many people in this country are struggling. What's wrong with that? Why is that so upsetting to the greater left good? You know, oh, you can't. What would you say about the United Kingdom if you're not rolling out the red carpet? What I would say about the United Kingdom is we're broken. We're financially screwed, and the people's morale is at an all-time low, and something needs to be done. 0344 499 1000. Energy suppliers have urged Ed Miliband to charge households more for running a gas boiler to boost the uptake of eco-friendly heat pumps in electric vehicles. Oi, Millipede, nobody wants an electric car. Nobody wants an electric heat pump. They cost too much. They're not efficient. You're a madman who's going to bankrupt this country even more. That would be my opinion. What is yours? Are you a green enthusiast? Are you going to ring me up? Do you represent Friends of the Earth and tell me I don't know what I'm doing? I want to know your opinion. Do you like Ed Miliband? Do you think the whole net zero thing is achievable? or just an ideological waste of time? This hour, the legend that is Mike Graham from Morning Glory will be here. We'll talk about the end of cigar lounges. That's apparently down to Labour. And a hawk that keeps attacking people somewhere in England and jumping on only men's heads and attacking them. I think it could be an angry bird. You see what I did. 0344 499 1000. Text to 8722. Now, when we search the crevices of respectability for guests for this show, we sometimes come up with a gem. This is a gem who I found in a little chef after he lost his seat as a Tory MP, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons, former Tory MP for the Ribble Valley, and now carving out a career as a commentator, thanks entirely to me. Nigel Evans, a very good afternoon.
Jeremy, it's a delight, and I'm really pleased that Little Chef is getting so much publicity.
I hope you and I are going to get a free fry up every time we get a Little Chef after this. Do you know what I'm saying, Nudge?
You are true though. I was driving up the M6 and I had to divert to a service station somewhere near Staffordshire, and that's where I did the broadcast. And of course, your beady-eyed viewers recognised immediately where I was.
Nigel, I'm going to ask you questions that I've set to the people, the four people listening, and I'd love to know what you think, because you've cut the shackles of the Tory party. I like Sir John Redwood, and you give it straight. Am I wrong about the trade wars thing? I sit here and I listen to this, and I'm sorry, your average person in the street wants to know what's going to be left in their pocket at the end of the month. They're fighting high mortgage rates, just massive problems left, right and centre, tax increases, all this. It's just rhetoric, isn't it? At the end of the day, I mean, how much American stuff I don't consider it. I consider our dissatisfaction with the NHS far more important. Do you understand that from a sort of consumer's point of view?
Yeah, I think getting value for money out of the NHS is vitally important. You're absolutely spot on. My sister lives in Swansea. She had to go private to get her hip replaced the other day because she was in a very long waiting queue in the NHS in Wales, and she was in pain. So what did she do? She paid. She borrowed money in order to get that operation. That can't be right. But at the same time, as far as the trade wars are concerned, why have we not gone to the United States of America and negotiated what is something that we thought was going to happen as soon as we left the European Union, which is a proper, sensible, common sense trade deal with the US of A? We export a bunch of chemicals, aviation, Scotch whiskey. It's about £1 billion a year goes from Britain to the United States of America. We import stuff from them. This can't be in anybody's interests to get embroiled in any form of trade war. So let's get and use the position that we've now won by being outside of the European Union and get a proper trade deal with it.
We would be able to do...
Be on a plane out to America now.
We would be able to do that. We've got a Prime Minister who's anti-British, loves the European Union more than he loves this country, and whatever he tells the world about Trump, all of him and his left-wing mates would hate him. Let's get it back to the NHS. I told that story about Georgie, who works in our office. I mean, you know, we've heard stories. Migrants arrive in this country, Nige. They get to see a GP within 24 hours. Many occasions a private GP. I'm talking about the men and women of this country, like your sister, who pay their stamp, who have done everything they possibly can and are being left high and dry. We've heard this argument about we need more money. Surely there must come a point when people in power should say, no, make it more efficient, turn people away, stop. I told a story during COVID. I was living in Windsor. The Princess Margaret Hospital gave 90% of their hospital for COVID patients in return for £10 million from the Department of Health, right? They had 4 people in 10 months. Joke. Absolute joke. I don't believe the money is spent adequately. I absolutely do not.
Ton of money being wasted within the National Health Service. We know that. And it's not because of the vast majority of people who work in the NHS, a lot of them not getting paid tons of money, but the managers who are on high 6-figure salaries, many of them earning well over £100,000, some of them £250,000 and more, and they're the ones who really should be ensuring that people are getting value for money. Just before the general election, I went to Blackburn Hospital and saw a ton of patients on trolleys in corridors. This is no way to be treating people who need health care. Well-paid managers were showing me around, Jeremy. No, I got a good idea. Let's take it by the scruff of the neck and shake it properly. And you know, the vast majority of people out there don't care who provides their healthcare. If there is somebody out there in the private sector who can do cataracts at a cheaper price than the NHS, then that's where Wes Streeting ought to be taking the checkbook and buying in from the private sector those operations and questioning why it is that there's such a huge differential within the NHS as to providing certain operations. Some of them cost twice as much in certain parts of the country than they do in others. We need value for money. We need efficiency back in the NHS, and just pouring more taxpayers' money into the NHS is simply making the situation worse.
Do you agree with me that it seems to be this revered on a pedestal being? I mean, I've said it before on this show many times. You know, for me, one of the greatest inventions in the modern world, the NHS and the welfare state. Let's help people. Let's be free at point of entry. Let's provide the help for people who can't help themselves. But we as a nation are having them taken out of us, because it seems to me that the people who pay for this, whose tax pays for this, are missing out. There can't be. That's like a savings account, right? That somebody else gets to dip their hand into. I don't understand. And your lot were in for 14 years. I'm not having a go at you personally, but it just is this massive monster that just gobbles up money, and it's frankly its quality of service gets worse and worse by the year. And yet, I give you that example again, Nigel, and there will be leftists who will hate me for it. How come you can end up in a dinghy here, right, on a Thursday night, and by Friday morning you're seeing a private GP in a 4-star hotel? Doesn't make sense, doesn't.
No, it really leaves me cold to think that there are a lot of people out there who have paid in. They get up very early in the morning. They work in a job that they don't really like. Some of them despise the work that they do. They pay their taxes, and yet when they really need the NHS, it's not there for them. And the fact that other people are getting preferential treatment who've just come into the country is completely wrong. We should all be treated absolutely equally, and indeed, if anything, those who've paid in should be the ones at the front of the queue. But the fact is, it's just simply not working, and we need to look afresh at it. At least Wes Streeting had the guts to cut out one layer of bureaucracy, which was introduced under the Tories by Andrew Lansley. You're absolutely right. We've got a lot to say sorry for as far as that's concerned, but removing that one tier is absolutely right. Now we've got to look to see where it is that the NHS is failing, and quite frankly, as I say, go out to the private sector and buy in operations if the NHS can't provide them at the right price at the right time.
Now I'll move on to one of my pet hates. We talk about migration the whole time. France has finally admitted, I hate him, that it needs to start intercepting more small boats, and has even raised the possibility of taking back some illegal migrants from Britain. President Macron's border chief, he's got one, said returning Channel migrants would send a clear message that they should not bother risking their lives making the dangerous crossing. This is a pile of absolute tripe. These Gaelic liars have been taking £500 million from this country, and their border forces have literally encouraged people to get into boats and come across, and lo and behold, whether it's the RNLI or the British Navy, we bring them in and we put them in hotels. The French have been laughing at us. I'd take away their fishing licences. That's the first thing I'd do. Genuinely, I mean it.
Well, the RNLI must learn the fact that they're not the taxi service to bring in illegal immigrants into the United Kingdom. And also, you've mentioned £500 million. What are we getting for that?
Nothing.
And it does seem to me that the French police are not doing their job, and we're wasting the £500 million. They're saying, thank you very much, merci beaucoup, and they are banking the money. Instead of which, that £500 million could be being spent on things like naval boats within the Channel. Look how many drones you could set up for that sort of money. Look at the satellite time that you could be using to try and pinpoint where these illegal boats are coming into the UK, and we should be taking action to intercept them before they come into British waters. So £500 million, as far as I'm concerned, is a total waste of money. And if Macron has just worked that out, that he now needs to do something for the money, well, all well and good. But we need to do something, because the fact is that the government, since they came to power in July, all they've done is stop the Rwanda scheme. We hear that Yvette Cooper is very keen to stop the boats, but we've heard nothing, and the boats
stop the boats, smash the gangs. These are just clickbait. Nothing has happened. I'll tell you the two subjects today, and I knew this was going to be the case. This is enraging people, as is the NHS. I want you to be on this call, Nigel Evans. We'll go to Reading. I was born there. I apologise for that. Peter is an NHS nurse. Peter, you're on Talk Drive. A very good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Tell us what you want to talk about, pal. Go.
Well, basically, you're right. NHS is wasting money, hand over fist. They want to be net zero. Oh, we're net zero. Look at us, we're trying for this. I can tell you, they don't sterilise their instruments. They use single-use instruments for a lot of things. And because they say it's cheaper to buy them new than it is to sterilise them. And when you look at the country of manufacture of a lot of these scissors, tweezers, probes, China. So how can they be working towards net zero when they're importing all this stuff from China?
Really interesting, isn't it, Nige? And there's Peter inside the NHS, changed his name. Don't want to disrespect him or his position. That's not me ranting. That's a person on the shop floor, Nigel Evans.
Yeah, and when Peter's absolutely right. Anything that we're importing in from China, just remember how those products were made. And they weren't made with net zero energy supplies, because there are more coal-powered and gas-powered what do you call them? Power plants within China, and they are not on the path towards net zero. That's for certain. They must laugh. President Xi must say, yes, please, Britain, go towards zero as quickly as you possibly can, because that's going to help Chinese industry. And so every time you see something that says made in China, just remember that is a good that has now been, or a job that has been exported to China, because they're using cheaper energy and we are buying those goods. That can't be right. And we can't do this on our own. We literally cannot do this on our own. As far as the United Kingdom is concerned, Ed Miliband may get us towards net zero. But is that really going to help us when what we're seeing in China, in India, and now we've got President Trump, drill, baby, drill, and we are going to be outliers on this, and we are going to suffer. It's going to cost us jobs. And as you know, today we have seen the introduction of new higher rates of national insurance, employers' national insurance coming in. And that is going to make us less competitive as well. So heap all of this on, and eventually you hit a tipping point. And when you hit that tipping point, it breaks. And that's where we are now.
Pete, very quick question. I know it's not your name in Reading. NHS, is it about more money, as so many of the medical profession bleat on about, or is it about wheedling out these managers and these practices and being more efficient? That is no disrespect in that comment to the frontline staff.
Yeah. No, I completely agree that the NHS doesn't need more money, needs to stop wasting it. You know, when you have directors of diversity and inclusion. One year we had an art director. I was like, what's the point of that? Oh, it's to enhance the patient journey. They've already had a journey in an ambulance usually.
My sort of nurse. Pete, I've got to go. You're a top man. Pete, an NHS nurse there saying it's not about more money, it's about efficiency. Before you go back to your late shift at Little Chef, Nigel Evans, shocking news from the Labour Party. Cigar lounges could soon be shut down by Sir Keir Dreary Starmer's government. MPs are calling for cigar lounges to be closed, cigarette filters to be banned and a polluter pays levy to be imposed on the tobacco industry. Tell me you like a cheeky cigar, Nigel. This is the state's going to tell me what underpants to wear soon, man.
Well, the most ludicrous legislation we introduced under my last administration was, of course, raising the age whereby people can buy cigarettes, so that eventually in 20 years' time, if you're 40, you're being told that you can't buy a packet of cigarettes. And indeed, if you're 41, you'll have to produce your passport to demonstrate that you can buy cigarettes. It's absolutely bonkers. And of course, the price on a packet of cigarettes is what, £14, £15 a packet? Listen, I would advise everybody not to smoke. But if you decide you want to, then why shouldn't people be allowed to do so, as long as they're not passing their fumes on to anybody else? And the cigar lounges that are currently there, and there aren't many of them, and basically it's people who love cigars being in the company of other people who love cigars, who smoke cigars. They're not doing any harm to anybody. So, Nanny State, please go home and worry about something else.
I love you, Nigel Evans. Always welcome to this show. Former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons, Nigel Evans. Thank you very much indeed. It takes me back to Chris Tarrant when I used to work on Capital. He was so famous and so popular, he had it in his contract, I will smoke a cigar in the studio. Hacked everybody else off, but made me laugh. 22 minutes past 4. And a man who makes Chris Tarrant look like a pimple on the backside of broadcasting, the legend that is Mike Graham, is next. Don't go anywhere.
The problem we've got now is Wes Streeting has decided he's going to dump NHS England. Now, you know, whatever the rights and wrongs of that, and there is duplication, maybe mainly the duplication is in the Department of Health, in his stuff, not in the NHS England. But he wants to get rid of NHS England. He wants to run the thing himself. OK, fine. He's the Secretary of State. He's the politician. He can do that.
He's going to be held accountable. He may as well be the person making the decisions, is my view.
Well, but it's more than that.
He can't be any worse than Amanda Pritchard.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 4:25, live across the UK. Never eat a biscuit in an ad break because it tends to screw you up. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you my dearest friend in broadcasting. What a legend. And you might have seen him last night on ITV's Life Story, sat in the front row.
Yeah, very good, good afternoon, I should say. Yes, very enjoyable. I watched it last night. And,
Did you?
Yeah, I remembered it as almost as well as if I'd been there, because I was there.
You made it was a great, sweet comment that Mike made. He said, because he had to leave halfway through, because it was only supposed to be an hour's record, and I talked for 3 hours, and you had to leave halfway through. And if you've got an eagle eye, you'll see Mike halfway through suddenly becomes a woman. So
Yes.
it's quite modern.
It is very modern, yeah. I was sort of replaced for the final act.
Yes, you were.
As if I'd been removed.
So there's so much going on.
There
I'm
is.
not talking about tariffs on board because I don't think I'm going to take your point. I don't think anybody really understands what it means
not
until
really.
somebody says, by the way, an American burger's going to cost you 3 times that it used to do.
Yeah,
You know what
I mean, if you're planning on buying a Cadillac Escalade, it might cost you a few quid more.
I can't think I'm going to, do you?
I don't think you're going to,
No. NHS dissatisfaction.
Yes.
Not shocking.
Huge.
Told the story of Georgie.
Yeah.
Interesting then, did you hear that NHS nurse?
I did.
Under a pseudonym saying, you know, we're using stuff twice, we're importing stuff from China, yet we're supposed to be net zero. And he says, not me, lefty lawyers and all those people, he says, there are managers. Did you hear what he said? There's an art director, and they said, what's that for? He said, to put art up around the hospital to make the patients feel like they're having a better journey. And when you've had a journey in an ambulance, can we try and make you better?
If you're lucky. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, I've spoken to people in the NHS that work in the NHS for years and years and years, and they all tell me that in every hospital you will open a door and there'll be a room and it'll be chock full of stock. Stuff that they've ordered that they've never used, stuff that's now out of date, whether it's paper, whether it's medical supplies, whether it's, you know, medicine in some cases. They over-order because it's not their money. There's nobody watching the money.
No.
It's ridiculous.
And that's one of the things about running a business, isn't it? Running a restaurant or something is buying the right number of things to sell, and you don't buy too many that you don't sell. I told the story before about a mate of mine whose wife is an NHS A&E nurse, and she, well, it's a simple story. Bloke comes in, is worried. When they do nothing, he's got a headache. Yeah. She gave him 2 paracetamol. The rules say the packet of 60, the rest of the 58 have to be thrown away.
Incredible.
I mean, what's the point of that?
Exactly. This week we found £80 million has gone south, paid to interpreters and translators in the NHS.
Sorry, 80 million quid
£80
spent on interpreters.
Interpreters and translators.
What, because when people come to hospital, you can't understand them?
And if they don't speak English as their first language, they get a translator in. I mean, how many times have you had to take the kids abroad to a hospital because, you know, they've fallen in the swimming pool or something?
Let me tell you, the last time,
every holiday,
right? The last time, I'm going to get this right, we're in Lanzarote, Oliver's ill, go downstairs, 100 euros, the most amazing woman, better English than most people speak in this country, injection done, sorted, absolutely.
But if there's a problem, everywhere I've ever taken my kids,
better than this country.
Always much better than this country, but sometimes a place where they don't speak English, you just have to get by. You don't immediately demand an interpreter gets, you know, flown in from Madrid or something, do you?
Yes, I'd like to see a doctor, a dentist, I'd like a hotel, and I want an interpreter, he said as he landed in Mozambique.
Exactly. Have you got any pizza as well while we're at it?
Yes, with mushrooms. So there's that, and then there's this French story about the migrants.
Oh, yes.
So
the French have suddenly woken up.
What, to the fact that we might take the 500 million back, you bunch of scutters, because you haven't done anything for the money.
Well, they stand there watching, basically, and it's worse than that, because we saw from the Sun's investigation last week that not only do they encourage the migrants into the boats, they tell them, don't worry, when you get somewhere near, you know, in British waters, they'll come and rescue you. RNLI will pick you up, or Border Force will pick you up, just wave at them, and they'll take you to England. And that's the information they give to the migrants. They don't say don't go because it's really dangerous. They go au revoir.
Yeah, adios.
You know?
So and we're giving them £500 million. Yes. So again, I mean, that's a third of what the government will save on freezing pensioners.
Yeah, I know.
How does that make sense?
It makes no sense at all. You know, they're giving money to people who do nothing for it. It doesn't make any sense. You know, it's like why are they giving money to the Chagos Islands to take something off our hands that we own? That they don't want. Yeah. Why are we paying them?
9 billion.
Why are we paying them? I don't know.
The pensioners could be warm for the next 6 winters.
Yeah, I
don't understand. You made a great point downstairs. We just filmed Plank Friday night, 7 o'clock. Don't miss it. It's amazing because it is his show and he's the best. Sorry, you said a point downstairs which is fantastic. Ready for this, Ryan? What happens to the boats when they get here?
Yeah.
What happens to the dinghies and all these boats that bring the migrants? Who deals with them? Do they get salvaged? Or what happens?
I mean, they get put, supposedly, there was one case where I saw that they put them all in this kind of warehouse and they just piled them all up.
Right.
But, you know, surely what they should do is just stick a big hole in them, because presumably if they go somewhere, they'll just get reused. I don't know what happens to them. I don't know whether they get sold back to the people smugglers. Nobody knows.
So those are the two main news stories, and feel free at 4:30, my friends, to call us, 0344 409 1000. But cigars
Yes.
and hawks.
Yes.
What would you like to... I love this morning on breakfast.
I mean, the hawks, we came upon this, and I happened to see it last night on ITV News, and I thought this is the sort of story that people get really involved with, because everybody has got an animal sort of fetish of one kind or another. You know, they
I'm
like
not sure
animals.
that's the right word.
We like animals in this country, generally speaking. Remember when I used to work at the Daily Mirror, you'd always get far more money raised if you were doing an animal sort of appeal than you were if you were doing an appeal about kids. I mean, people in this country love animals, right?
Yeah, more than kids.
But this hawk is in a little village just outside of Luton, and it's attacking everyone. It's only men, mind you, at the moment. Doesn't seem to want to attack women. No. Nobody knows where it came from.
No.
It appears to have a sort of a tether, which is called a terry or something, attached to its its foot. It's a jerry or something like that.
Or a wogan.
It's something to do with if you're a captured, hawk, a bird of prey.
Right.
When they do these,
So it could be an escaped.
So
hawk.
it could be an escaped hawk, but the Whipsnade Zoo nearby says not one of theirs, right? So nobody knows where it came from. Sits on top of a lamppost and basically dive bombs everybody.
And this is brilliant. I'm going to show it now. And please, if you're just listening on the radio, when you get home, try and just go on YouTube, because this was an ITV report. They sent a man out, didn't they?
They sent. Well, the residents are so concerned about it that they said, "You won't believe this, but they always attack us whenever we walk out." And so the crew said, "All right, well, why don't you walk out and see what happens?" Right?
Have a watch, ladies and gentlemen. This is the hawk, and be careful of your life in Luton.
With attacks reportedly on the rise, what began as a rather amusing tale of harassment by a hawk isn't so funny for villagers anymore. We were filming with Jim Hewitt as he made his way to the shop this morning. Before there was a chance to warn him, the hawk swooped. It is one of the most serious incidents to date. Jim gave us permission to show the damage done to his head because he believes the bird has to go by any means necessary.
I really shouldn't laugh at Jim, who's bald and covered in blood, but really...
It's unbelievable.
And now you've got I love the fact that you describe it as a true British story, because when all the bird lovers are going, we need to protect it, other people are going, murder it, it's maiming us.
And the local council, it's a place called Flamstead in Hertfordshire, the local council have said, that they're not going to euthanise the bird.
No.
So that apparently the bird will continue to wreak havoc and attack people. I've got a story from about a week ago where it attacked a runner, 45-year-old David Robinson, who was exercising. He said he was attacked out of the blue. This bird suddenly just came down.
And it only attacks. It only attacks men. So it's an angry bird.
It's an angry bird.
Or maybe it's a bird that's been mistreated.
Or maybe it's been trained. To attack men.
What about my theory that I said on Plank, that this could in fact be a drone sent by Russia or even China?
Well, I think it looks like a real bird to me. I mean, I'm no expert, but it looks like...
Well, you are actually an expert on birds, to be honest.
It's got proper feathers and everything, and a beak.
The feathered variety.
And it's got big claws, which is what it cuts people with.
So what are they supposed to do with this then?
Well, apparently they're going to hire a falconer. You've got to be careful how you say that.
Is that like the man with the big hand?
The man with the big hand, and they're going to
get like Kev O'Sullivan.
Yeah. So I guess if you put some meat on your hand or something, it might come down and maybe you can then capture it.
And breakfast is in itself an extraordinary journey every day. If you haven't listened to Morning Glory, it then morphed into, when have you been attacked by a bird? And you must repeat the story of you in Lyme Regis, where I spent the first 18 years of my life.
Well, I've told this story before. I was sitting on Lyme Regis Beach with the mother of my children, and they were playing in the surf, whatever you want to call it, paddling away.
I like the way you did
quite
that.
Small.
Yeah.
And we had some fish and chips, and I'm sitting there quite happy. It's a day a bit like today. It was, sunny but not too warm. And suddenly this thing clunked into my head. I thought somebody had literally kicked me in the head. It was that hard. It felt like somebody had punched me really hard or kicked me. And I kind of shook myself and looked, and my glasses had fallen off, and I could see this gull kind of just out the corner of my eye. And I thought, he's after the fish and chips, obviously. And I went and looked for the fish and chips.
And that would have really upset you, because you were hungry.
I was hungry.
Yeah.
No, the bird then flew off, right? And I thought, well, he doesn't seem to have taken the fish and chips. Everybody's okay. Everything's all right. Felt to see if I was bleeding. I was fine. Took my glasses. My sunglasses had disappeared. So literally mugged.
And Lyme Regis is famous because the gulls go for everybody's sandwiches. So
they do.
You can do it if you want. We like to be very, very transparent here. We've got no production team. We just spike off Mike, to be perfectly honest. But have you ever been attacked by an angry bird?
We had a guy. We also asked people for things that have attacked you, and a guy rang
things, animals or birds, anything.
This guy grew up in Kenya, right?
Did he?
And his dad used to have an old Morris Minor.
In Kenya?
In Kenya. He must have been in the British service or something like that, And they were in a safari park, and they started to get chased by a rhinoceros. I'm not joking. I'm very sorry. You know, how do we get from, you know...
So forget tariffs, forget the French and the NHS. We will replicate breakfast. Have you ever been attacked by an angry bird?
Yeah.
I don't mean in a divorce court or any animal. Has it attacked you?
Right, this rhinoceros apparently ran at the car.
Did it?
So he said, me and my sister were in the back of the seat, you know, looking back out the back window, saying to their dad, you know, floor it. The rhinoceros is catching up with us.
03. Do you know why this is even more funny? Peter Carble is through the glass, looking really intense. We've got some political news.
Serious
and we're
news.
sat here talking about being attacked by a rhinoceros. 0344 499 1000. Before I let you go, because the Clan Graham are going to make you feel
I'm about to meet them.
He's got a big family gathering.
Yeah.
End of cigar lounges is the latest from the Labour Party.
Yeah.
Apparently, they could soon be shut down. MPs are calling for cigar lounges to be closed, cigarette filters to be banned, and a polluter pays levy to be imposed on the tobacco industry. We make the point, we always make the point, it's individual choice, we wouldn't advocate it. But where are we going to end up, Mikey? The state's going to tell me what to wear?
I know, ridiculous. You know where you can still smoke a cigarette?
Where?
On the terrace of the House of Commons.
Can you?
So I wonder whether they'll be outlawing that.
You can have a cigarette on the terrace of the House of Commons, but they want to ban it everywhere else.
Exactly.
Hypocrites.
Of course they are.
We wish you a very good evening.
Thank you.
I think it could be an Alan Brazil moment. Will you make breakfast tomorrow with
I will.
clan,
Well, I've told them
Graham
we've got an early dinner for about 5:30, so I'll be home by 8, 9 o'clock, so I should be fine.
And thank you as ever for your support. He's back tomorrow. The amazing Mike Graham. And don't forget Plank on Friday, 7 o'clock, 0344 499 1000. We're live across the UK. This is Talk Drive, and Peter Cardwell is next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Just remember, he's back at 6, and we'll take on that hawk story, which is fantastic. Have you been attacked by an angry bird? You know what I mean. Or any other animal. Let's just get that into drive, because it's the only way to get through the afternoon. 0344 499 1000. If you want to talk about the tariff wars, you can. If you want to talk about the French, you can. If you want to slag off the NHS, you can. What I want to do is speak to the voice of politics, a man who has quality in every sinew of his being. Couldn't get him. Peter Carwell, good afternoon.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
I'm all right.
Good job yesterday. Did you watch the show last night?
Of course, yes.
You're very
it was
sweet,
very,
actually.
very good. You did very well.
You're lying, aren't you?
I'm not.
Yeah, you're very
And
kind.
at one at times.
Well, I fell over.
You fell over. I saw. It was very funny.
Well, I left it in because, let's be honest, there's nothing else to do, is there? Now, listen, we have some breaking sort of news from you, which is, this is really interesting, because Esther McVey, who was the Common Sense Minister
That's right.
in Rishi Sunak's government, married to Philip Davis. He used to be the MP for
Shipley.
Shipley. She represents the Old Tatton constituency of George Osborne. You think I'm on this?
You know this shizzle.
Well, only because I got invited to a wedding, right?
Did you?
Oh, yeah. She was on mic this morning, but has made a rather a bit of a slip-up.
Well, she doesn't actually think it's a slip-up. This was about
Do you think it's a slip-up?
Not necessarily.
Why are we talking about it then?
It's a controversy anyway.
Oh, is it?
She was at a meeting about a month ago with Philip Davies, her husband, and she said that she thinks that the Conservatives should take the foot off the gas in the Runcorn by-election and let Reform win it. Now, Mike Amesbury, who was the MP, obviously lamped a constituent.
Walloped, he
lamped him.
Lost his job.
Was ahead by quite a lot. He got more than half the vote, but it looks as if the bookies are saying anyway that, and the polls are saying that that Reform UK could take this seat, so they could get another MP. Now the Conservatives will stand in that election, but there's all this debate going on within the Conservative Party at the moment, saying should they go forward with it, or should they have some sort of electoral pact with Reform UK? Well, this of course could be the first test of that. Now Esther McVey said what she thought was in private, and I think we've got the clip of it, what she thought was in private, saying that they should do some sort of deal where Conservatives take the foot off the gas and let the Reform candidate go forward.
This was the True Blue Patrons dinner a few weeks ago. This is Esther McVey. Have a listen.
Fought many elections and seen how slim the margins were. What you want to do is, like I said, where UKIP came second and we were a very, very distant fourth, like in Runcorn, like where Mike Amesbury punched his constituent, you'd probably say there, let Reform win that seat, because you might need them in the southwest, that we win a seat. But keep your mind open. And there are certain things even within a party you might not agree with, with different people in your own party. But let's not, because they are Conservatives, most of them who were standing there came from the Conservative Party. Many of my members have a dual now membership for the Reform and the Conservative Party, so just be careful how you view those people.
I would say, Lucy, I would say that last sentence is far more interesting, and I know Esther really well. A lot of my membership in Tatton have dual membership in Reform. This is interesting. Kemi Baden, not the Conservative, has been explicit by saying for months we're not doing any sort of deal. We're 4 years out of an election, but of course people are now saying that if the right splinters, these dreadful, horrendous Labour government could be in again. Is she right, Esther McVey? I think she's right.
Well, she hasn't. She's doubled down. This is a story from the Daily Telegraph, from their political editor, Ben Riley-Smith. He approached Esther McVey and she said the priority must be to get rid our great country of the socialist nightmare government. Without a deal with Reform, we risk letting the socialists back in again, and the country should always come first. Any deal would involve us standing aside where Reform are best placed to beat Labour, and Reform standing aside in the majority of seats where we, the Conservatives, are best placed to beat Labour. I am not sure what is controversial about that. It is the statement of the blindingly obvious. The only person who benefits from ruling out a pragmatic electoral pact between Reform and Conservatives is Keir Starmer, and people might want to reflect on that. So even though this has been discovered, even though this is going to cause controversy within the Conservative Party, even though we're talking about it today, Esther McVey doesn't regret those comments, and she has now basically said them publicly.
She said, I know Philip, I know Nigel, I know Richard Tice, I know Lee Anderson. I know them all very, very well. And I'd sooner say to them, there's a couple of seats you can get there than where we were going to come a distant fourth. Interesting, though, Kemi Baden, who I don't think will survive a year, steadfastly not. Nigel Farage, everybody knows, wants to be the next leader of this country. Maybe that's down the line. Because this is a local election, we have to abide by certain rules, and thus I have to, I'm sorry, it's important, read out the Runcorn and Helsby constituency candidates. Catherine Blakelot is standing for the English Democrats. How many people are standing? Danny Clark for the Liberal Party, Chris Copeman for the Greens, Paul Duffy for the Liberal Democrats, Peter Ford, the Workers' Party of Britain, Howling Lord Hope for the official monster raving Loony Party, Sean Halston for the Conservative and Unionist, Paul Murphy, the Social Democratic Party, Sarah Pochin for the Reform UK, Karen Louise Shaw, the Labour Party, John Stevens rejoined the EU, and Michael Williams, the Independent. Those are the rules that we broadcast by, but we wanted to say that has definitely happened.
And that by-election will be on the 1st of May, which is on the same day as the local elections, which are happening in many parts of England.
What do you make of that? Do you give a damn? 0344 499 1000. Peter Carball is with us. Ever been attacked by a bird?
Not a hawk, although it's interesting you mention the hawk there, because there's some people who say get rid of the hawk.
Yes.
and there are other people who say keep the hawk. So you could say on the hawk there are some hawks and some doves.
Wow, that was as crap as some of your political stuff, wasn't it? Let's talk to you about the NHS dissatisfaction row. That doesn't surprise me. One in 5 people now are only obsessed with the NHS. I am absolutely in the camp of not let's give it more money. We need to get it off a pedestal, understand we've got a much bigger, much older population, right? Living longer, more people coming into this country. It's overstretched. Because I just had an NHS nurse ring us and go, they're obsessed with net zero. It's a creative art director. Lovely line.
A creative art director.
He said, honestly, they came... Now, listen, this is the best line ever. They don't play this out across this station. He went, I work in the NHS. This isn't my name. He said, we were introduced some weeks ago to a creative art director who put art up around the hospital at big expense to make the patient's journey better. And he went, you've had a journey already in a bleeding ambulance. Can we just make you better? It's true. And that's inside the NHS, Pete.
I mean, that's ludicrous on a number of levels, not least because, you know, if you're on a journey, you have to be physically going somewhere or on the X Factor. There are no other times when that it's acceptable to use that word.
Thank you. The NHS more money or just...
No, of course, it's got loads of money, and basically we put it up on a huge pedestal, but actually the outcomes are pretty bad, and only, as you say, only 21% of people actually saying they like the idea of the NHS, they like socialised medicine free at the point of use, but when it comes to the practicality of dealing with the NHS, only 1 in 5 people who do that, who have some interaction with it, are actually happy with it.
80 million, Mike just told me, we spent on interpreters last year in the NHS. So if you and I want to go to a foreign country, right, and we're ill, we're going to demand a hotel room, we're going to be seen straight away, then we want dentistry, possibly we need a car and a mobile phone, and we can also demand an interpreter. It just wouldn't happen, would it?
Well, it doesn't happen in other countries where you've got to either hire your own interpreter or try and do it with your phone or whatever. We absolutely make life far too easy for so many people in this country. There are loads of people who are paying lots of tax. We know all those bills went up yesterday for so many people. My water bill went up 28%. I haven't stopped moaning about it for 24 hours. And we're in a situation where lots of people want to use the NHS, which they've paid for through their taxation, and they're not getting the service they want and not getting the service they need. People waiting a long time for a GP's appointment or for operations that they need.
Completely agree. And just before you go to France, we maybe could take back some migrants, but we want you to come in.
Sorry, is this an episode of Hello, Hello?
Hello, I want you to continue to give me the £500 million a year.
Listen very carefully. I will say this only once.
Nice.
The French need to buck up their ideas.
They need to what?
Buck up their ideas.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
With a B.
Yes.
Buck up their ideas in terms of the £500 million we give them every single year.
£500 million.
And now the Interior Minister, in fairness to him, has said that they need to do more. Well,
but that's
yes,
just window dressing.
Give them payment by results. Pay them per migrant they stop. That's what I say, or per migrant they take back. That's what I would do. I would take that money. I would say, you're not getting any of it. You're going to do payment per migrant. That's what we do.
I think that is, on a serious level, that is absolutely systematic of what is wrong with this country. We are giving £500 million to the French who are laughing at us. Yeah. I loved Margaret Thatcher, but quite the one thing that I loathed that she did was she built the Channel Tunnel. I don't like the French.
What's wrong with the Channel Tunnel?
I don't want to be attached to them. They
You're not attached to them. It's a tunnel.
I don't care. The French do my absolute nutting. They
Are you serious? The thing you don't like about Margaret Thatcher is that she built...
I wasn't bothered about the poll tax. The Channel Tunnel did my absolute nutting. Why have you joined us to Europe when you've spent 10 years...
It's a tunnel.
It's a tunnel. Then people can get in easy. No, not having it. Not having it. Don't want to...
That's utterly bizarre.
If I was Donald Trump, if I was in charge, I would absolutely... I'd close the borders and I would bash the tunnel to bits. I would destroy it. I don't want a tunnel to France.
You fill it up with concrete. So hold on, you're fine with a poll tax?
I wasn't really fine with the poll tax, but I'm certainly more fine with many things. I don't like the Channel Tunnel. I don't like the French.
Sorry,
I think they're taking
this is utterly weird.
Why is it weird?
What's wrong with the Channel Tunnel?
Because it means that we're nearer to France.
We're not nearer to France.
People can get... They annoy... No, you're being ridiculous.
It's the same
distance. The French are taking the out of us, aren't they?
Right.
So why? I don't want them to come through a tunnel. I want to stop them.
What's wrong with French people coming on a train, or us, as I'm doing in a couple of weeks, going to Paris on the train?
The French are taking the mickey. They never turn up in anything until it's too late. They take all the credit, and I don't like them. What's wrong with being honest?
You cannot like a group of people, which is a little bit curious, but
I like German people. I like Spanish people.
Germans use the Channel Tunnel too.
Well, they shouldn't do. They should fly from Frankfurt or Munich.
What is this?
I'm sorry, I don't
Sorry, this is your weirdest opinion ever.
No, it's not.
You've got some strange opinions, but this is the weird... You don't like the Channel Tunnel.
No, I don't like the Channel Tunnel. I consider it, for a woman who protected this country and stood up and said, we are United Kingdom, we are an island, she then joined us to the French. Close the Channel Tunnel.
Close the Channel Tunnel.
Tell me if you agree with me,
I don't
Pete.
think there are going to be too many people who believe that we should close the Channel Tunnel.
Tell me I'm totally nuts. I believe we should never have built the Channel Tunnel. I think the French are a disgrace. 0344 499 1000. Why are you laughing at me?
Because it's a really strange opinion.
I'm a very strange man.
Well, we know that.
Do you believe that cigar lounges should be shut down very quickly?
No.
Are you a cigar smoker?
I've smoked possibly 1 or 2 cigars in my life. I mean, some people like doing it. If people want to work there and they're happy to do so, and people want to smoke cigars, that's fine.
So you've never been attacked by a bird, you've only had a couple of cigars, and you think the Channel Tunnel's okay?
And I haven't had a drink in 7 years, so yeah.
I think you should take up drinking again. Close the Channel Tunnel, I say. This is Talk Drive.
We're in for an extremely disruptive period and possibly a recession. And I don't make any moral judgments about that. I think there may be an argument that the neoliberal economic order needs resetting, that we do need all that onshoring that your caller just there was talking about. But the ambiguity is the problem at the moment, certainly for people talking about it.
The uncertainty, and again, it's all very well. I completely understand the urge to sort of like get companies, and this happened actually a lot in his first term in office.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
5 to 5, live across the UK. Stuart Santry says, I'm with you, Jez. On the tunnel, I'd fill it in. Deanne says, I agree with you, Jeremy. Thought the Channel tunnel was a big mistake. Fill it in. Vincent Morris, I was in York City Centre on a perfect blue sky day. I looked up at the cloudless sky thinking, what a wonderful day. At that very moment, a passing pigeon offloaded half a pint of poop. It hit me on the chin, down my neck, inside my collar and tie, and down my chest, stomach and stained the front of my underpants. I hate pigeons. Great show, says Vincent in North Yorkshire. Let's go to the phone lines to Essex, all right? Jeffrey, you got 2 minutes. You're on Talk Drive. A very good evening.
Good evening, Jeremy. I enjoyed the interview about your life last night. Very good. Hope you didn't hurt yourself when you tripped over.
Thank you very much. No, I picked myself up and dusted myself down. Thanks for reminding me, Jeffrey. What you got? Couple of minutes, pal.
Yes. No, I wanted to talk to you about... I was watching your report on the hawk that seems to be terrorising that village.
Yes.
Well, my theory is this hawk is so annoyed about the Chagos Islands, he thinks one of them is Starmer. So he's going around and all the chaps attacking them because he thinks one of them is.
It thinks that all the men that it's attacking in Luton, one day it's going to sink its claws and its beak into Keir Starmer's head.
Yeah, he thinks one of them is probably Starmer, but he's not sure which one.
Well, this is a great call. Jeffrey, I appreciate your call, and maybe one day, hopefully, the hawk will get Starmer and that will knock him out. 0344 499 1000. We'll head north to Staffordshire. Alan, a very good afternoon. We're on Talk Drive, or rather you are. What's happening?
Hi, Alan. Sorry, hi, Alan. That's me. That's you, Jeremy.
Sorry? What did you say?
Don't worry. I said hello, Alan. I'm saying hello to myself, Jeremy.
Why are you saying hello to yourself?
Because you caught me by surprise.
Well, let's do it again. It's like me walking on ITV last night, falling over. Let's go north to Staffordshire and say a very good evening to Alan. Hello, Alan. You're on Talk Drive.
Hi, Jeremy. I've not spoken to you for ages.
Hello, Jeremy. Oh, no, you're called Alan. Oh, it's all gone.
Listen.
Yes.
Behave. Right, very quickly. You will remember me from singing your jingle many months back. But anyway, I need to talk to you about a serious issue.
Right.
Beginning of October, my wife was not well.
Yeah.
She had biopsies, etc. Beginning of November, due to her being in pain, I went to the doctors with her.
Yep.
She was told bluntly, you've got stage 4 cancer. Okay?
Yep.
Beginning of November. She started treatment less than 4 weeks ago. She had 4 chemo treatments. For 4 months, she has been messed about, and I'm being polite when I say that.
Yeah.
Can't fault the NHS staff at the moment. However, I've got to agree with what you're saying. There's a lot of people at the top, 6-figure salaries, who are not doing what they should be doing, in my opinion. It is a mess, and I think, as you refer to little migrants coming across, I've got to agree. First-class service they get. My wife is dying because of lack of concern, and she had, and I can't say too much, but basically she's just been left in the gutter.
I swear to you this, one of the reasons that we sit here and we do this is for calls like this, Alan, and I find it so abhorrent that we are prioritising under this ideological belief that we should be people who don't deserve it as much as your wife, and I can only offer you a ton of sympathy, which probably doesn't do anything. And it says nothing. Listen, I don't want anybody to be ill. I don't want anybody to miss out. But there comes a point, certainly when you're up against it, when you're up against a wall, when it won't change, you have to look after your own. And I'm just, when I hear stories like yours, it must infuriate you, doesn't it?
It's difficult, very difficult to see your wife deteriorate on a daily basis through neglect.
I think you make one very salient point there, my friend, which is it's very easy, I think, whenever you criticise the NHS, for people to obviously come out and say, the nurses and doctors do a great job. Yeah, they do. We're not talking about them. These people do it amazingly, vocationally and brilliantly. We're talking about the administrators and the managers, these middle managers.
I need to just say a couple of things.
Very quickly, mate, sorry.
Yeah. Some of the nurses at the chemo ward have said, we don't really want to do this job, but we have to. They don't want to be there doing that job. They'd like to be somewhere else doing a different job. So the care they put into it, it's not nice, Jeremy, and I'm sure you're aware of that anyway. But, can I just say one thing about your migrants coming across? You had Nigel, I believe, the MP from Conservatives.
Yeah.
No. But he was on about criticising the 500,000 500 million we're sending across to France, and they're doing nothing. Well, it was under their government which we were sending the money in the first place.
Couldn't agree more, Al. Listen, my love to your wife. Our thoughts are with you both. We appreciate your call. I'm sorry to have to finish it there. The news at 5 on the way. And your calls on Drive in the next hour. 0355 499 1000. Back in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Back, couple of minutes past 5, hour 2 of Drive for Wednesday. This is JK till 7. As ever, please involve yourself in this vain attempt at a radio programme. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. You might want to talk about the fact that our satisfaction with the NHS is at a record low. There's a flipping surprise. Are you one of those do-gooders who goes, it needs more money? Or are you one of the realists who goes, do you know what? Middle managers, management, all that rubbish, diversity, inclusivity, cut that out and deal with making people better. The French. All I said to Peter Cardwell was, this is what I said. They've come out today and gone, we might take more of your migrants back. No, you want to keep getting the £500 million a year we're giving you to help us with the problem. And you've done absolutely nothing. I then went on a sort of mini sort of crusade and said, and Peter thinks he's left the studio thinking I've lost the plot. I supported Thatcher in almost everything as she defended this great island of hers. I wasn't a fan of the Channel Tunnel. I don't understand why she joined us to Europe. I'd fill it in. Jez, there's too many... Oh, right, no, hold on a second. Oh, God. Jez, the best thing to do with the hawk... The other story is the hawk that keeps attacking people in Luton. It was on Breakfast with Mike, and it's just an extraordinary story. The best thing I think you could do with the hawk, says Ben in Burnley, is to move it to Calais. Maybe it could attack some migrants and distract them from actually coming. Interesting. The other cigar story... The other story is about cigars. The Labour Party want to ban cigar lounges. It's all going on the show. Margaret says the most famous cigar smoker was Sir Winston Churchill. Didn't do him any harm. Dee saying the poor bird's probably just hungry and having been reared in captivity doesn't know how to hunt. Yeah, she cares about it. That's nice. Michael also says a bird that's been captive bred and is looking for a human to feed it. Probably that. Stephen Donnelly says, I completely agree with you. He says, close the tunnel, fill it full of concrete. 0344 499 1000, a veritable plethora of different things you might choose to talk about between now and 7 o'clock. We say a very good afternoon to a legend, a man with a super flick. Benedict Spence, Conservative commentator, welcome to Talk Drive.
Good afternoon, Jeremy. How are you?
Very well. Do you want to do the serious stuff or do you want to do the light-hearted stuff? I'm going to offer you, OK, in no particular order, trade tariffs, nobody wants to talk about it, nobody understands it, NHS dissatisfaction, there's a surprise, or the French. Added to that afterwards, you can talk about a hawk, a cigar and the Channel Tunnel.
Well, I mean, the French and the Channel Tunnel are all sort of the same thing.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, that's quite a fun topic, actually. We can combine those two. Do you want to start with that?
You do that. It's your bit, it's your segment. You're being paid for it. I'm knackered. Have a go.
It's been a very long day talking about this hawk. Don't worry, I won't subject you to any more of this hawkishness. I mean, honestly, the whole, yeah, quite, it took a while. The whole thing with the French, you know, sort of admitting that they could be doing a little bit more, it is one of those things where you kind of just fold your arms and go, well, thank you for the audacity of several years, about 8 years into the crisis, actually being good enough to say...
4 billion quid, 4 billion pounds later.
Yeah, we could do a little bit more. Maybe we haven't quite pulled our weight. What can you say? We are French. This is what we do. We take August off and we don't come back after lunch. It's not surprising, frankly. It's a huge amount of money, though. And, you know, it just sort of goes to the heart of the issue that you and I have actually been saying for a very long time. You can keep on throwing money at the French, just like you can keep on throwing money at the NHS. It doesn't mean that it's magically going to work. It doesn't mean that they're going to be motivated to do so. The fact of the matter is, they don't want these people in France any more than we want them here. They're entirely going to be motivated by just taking our money and chivying them along so that they come here, so that they're not their problem. You know, this giving money to the French to police their own borders was never going to be a solution.
Whose idea, Benedict, whose idea was it to say to a country, we'll give you money to police your own borders? It's a great line. Whose idea was it? Who started this ludicrousness?
I mean, let's be clear, this started happening under the Conservatives. Let's remember that. But there has also, let's also think about this. It's been a real sort of issue when people talk about Europe and European solidarity and European security. This is something that European countries cannot actually decide for themselves anyway. And so actually for a very long time, you've had other countries paying the countries on the outer rim of Europe, if you like, places like Greece, Hungary, Italy, to police their own borders with their own money out of European budgets. It doesn't mean that it's worked for a second. You know, after a while, the Italians and the Greeks got a bit sniffy about this, and the Hungarians started getting, you know, building walls and all that sort of thing, and so did the Poles. But it took a really long time, and it only started happening after other European countries like Germany and France started, you know, closing their own internal borders, saying, hang on, no, we've had enough of this. You can't keep shunting them along to us. I remember there was a really fantastic diplomatic incident between Italy and France a couple of years ago, where the Italian ambassador was withdrawn from France after the Italians caught the French shipping migrants back over the Italian border and dumping them in the forests. And the Italians went, hang on, what on earth is this sense of European solidarity? Where do you get off doing this? So, you know, as I say, as much as we can say, you know, nobody should have expected the French to do this, to police their own borders, none of these European countries have been doing this for a very long time, no matter how much money you throw at it.
So the other thing was Peter Carball, our political... I mean, he's a nerd. I mean, he knows everything he's talking about. He's just left this studio convinced that I'm more mad than he thought I was before. I said that Margaret Thatcher, to me, was an icon. She supported this country. She saluted the fact that we were an island and we fought all these sort of things, blah, blah, blah. And then she built the bloody Channel Tunnel. I'm not a fan of the French. I don't understand why we'll be attached to Europe. I think it should be filled full of concrete or cut off. I think it's an absolute disgrace and a joke. What do you think?
I think the Channel Tunnel is a great idea if the infrastructure of a country and the rest of Europe actually works particularly well.
But why would you want a tunnel? Why would you want a tunnel attached to a part of mainland Europe you don't want to be part of anymore?
Well, partly so that it eases the flow of goods and services. That speeds up time. And also, let's also remember, some people like to go on holiday in the south of France and Tuscany still. It makes their journeys a little bit easier.
Fly there, then. I want it closed. Fly there.
You want it closed?
I do want it closed. I do. I think honestly, I just don't understand it.
Do you know what I've never understood is why actually we didn't build a tunnel between here and Ireland first? That was always the thing that slightly got me, was that if we were going to keep Northern Ireland part of the United Kingdom, why wouldn't you prioritise building a tunnel to Northern Ireland so that people can get to and from the...
I think there should be a tunnel. I think there should be a tunnel tariff from Europe, but not the other way. Especially the French. They should pay hundreds of dollars, or francs, or whatever it is, to come to the United Kingdom.
So we're going to have a... This could be quite fun. Donald Trump's having a tariff war with Europe.
Yes.
We could have a tariff war over use of the tunnel.
I'm going to tariff the French.
Very popular.
Yeah, I'm going to tariff the French. But no, I'm being serious. He thinks I'm mad. So also the other big thing in the news today, apart from, on a serious note, that French taking back migrants, which I just think is window dressing because people in this country are beginning to question, Benedict, quite rightly, £500 million a year over 8 years, £4 billion when you consider how our services and many things that we provide are struggling and not performing. The public satisfaction with the NHS has dropped. Ooh, that's a shock. From 24% to 21%, which means now, latest opinion poll thing, only 1 in 5 people are happy with how it's working. Driven dissatisfaction of the A&E services, dentistry, just almost everything, sadly, to do with the NHS, this massive waiting list for GPs. Very easy. This argument always comes down to, we need more money, say the professionals. Really? Many of us go, hold on a minute, there are middle managers and higher managers and woke people and diversity this, and we heard a great example today from an A&E nurse, an NHS nurse who wanted to keep his name out of it, so we changed his name, we called him Peter, and he said, they go on the whole time about net zero, and yet everything's imported from China. We're using things 2 or 3 times, and he delivered the bombshell that they were introduced some weeks ago to a man who was their new creative art director, who started putting art up around the hospital. Wait for it, it gets better, because he wanted to make people's journey through hospital and feeling better more acceptable. And the nurse went, you've had a journey already in an ambulance. I just want to make you better and then get you home. And honestly, the people that laugh at that miss the point, because it isn't just money, is it?
Well, no, it's not just money. I mean, for a start, you begin to understand why people might be in favour of the assisted dying bill, if this is the sort of awful things they're subjected to in hospitals. Of course, any health service could always make use of more money. And, for research, all kinds of stuff. We hear the stories about little children who get rare types of leukemia, and there's experimental treatment, and the NHS goes, there's not the money for it. You could always use money for that sort of thing. The problem is, there is such catastrophic waste in the NHS that I wouldn't want to give them a single more penny until they'd proven they'd cut out all of that nonsense and taken that money that they'd then have left over and put into those kind of frontline services. And, it's not just things like that. There's lots of diversity, woo-woo and all that nonsense that they spend a lot of money on, but also it's the fact that they don't bring their systems up to date, and they have different systems running on different sort of technology. None of it is joined up, none of it's in the 21st century. They still use fax machines, they still use pagers. You have ward doctors and things having to fill out all sorts of forms that frankly a computer ought to be able to do, and in most developed health services are already doing, which saves time and saves money, but we haven't got to that point yet in the NHS. Efficiency needs to be the watchword. And I'm telling you right now, for the budget that the NHS works on, you could get it down massively in terms of the efficiency. You could massively improve it. And then, by all means, if you need to turn around and go, look, we need an extra $1 billion for, a hospital in this particular region or something like that because it's underserviced, fine. But until you've cut out that waste, and you've actually sorted out the pipeline of staff, of NHS staff coming from universities to hospitals and then staying there, which is something else that we've not done. I don't want to hear this talk about needing more money. It is already taking up a catastrophic proportion of our GDP. How much more do they want?
And I think I said something earlier, I'd love your take on this. I think that it's always been revered. I mean, I've sat here for years and gone, I think the concept was fantastic. I don't think it's fit for purpose. I think our population has changed. There's no doubt the influx of more people from other countries has hindered that. But I almost feel like we need to restart it, knock it off its pedestal, and not look at it through criticising it, updating it, making it more efficient, cutting out those catastrophic wastages you're talking about. Doesn't mean that you're destroying the very thing that was set up and is right, but it's become a laughingstock, in my humble opinion. It's missing the target in so many ways.
Well, what made Britain a world-leading empire at the height of the empire was that Britain was revolutionary, and the NHS was revolutionary for its time. Nobody had done anything like it before. Nobody thought it was possible. And we could only do it because we were a very wealthy country and we trained doctors and nurses and we trained them to a very high standard. We were able to achieve this thing. And it did act as a blueprint for lots of other developed countries forming healthcare services of their own beyond simply you pay the local doctor or you pay the local hospital. But we've lost that revolutionary, forward-thinking attitude. We created these institutions centuries ago, less than a century ago in the case of the NHS, but we created them. And then we just let them stay as they are. We never developed them any further. We almost sort of sat there and went, well, that'll do. That's good enough. We were top of the world once, and that's good enough for us. Whereas actually, the attitude that we should have had was, let's keep revolutionizing. Let's keep on thinking, what are the new innovations that we can do, the ways that we can make this better? How do we improve it, rather than how do we just keep it? And that's what we've lost in this country, I think.
I couldn't agree more. I'd love to know your thoughts, by the way, about the NHS. Keep calls coming. Loads of texts as well. We will get to you. 0344 499 1000. It seems that dissatisfaction with the NHS and France taking back migrants are centring your brains today. Can I just ask you about something else, Benedict, if I can? Energy suppliers have apparently urged Ed Miliband to charge households more for running a gas boiler to boost the uptake of eco-friendly boilers, heat pumps and electric vehicles. When will this ridiculous idea that the people in this country give a toss and want to buy electric vehicles and have heat pumps put in, when is this government going to suss out that actually it isn't popular and you can throw as much money as you want into this idealistic nonsense, but you are going to bankrupt the country because we don't want this stuff, do we?
They will only learn when they're voted out of office, because they will bankrupt the country and that won't be enough for them. They'll keep on doubling down on this stuff because they are ideologues. The only way you can deal with this is by getting them out of power. But I mean, I have to say, I was driving drove into Norwich earlier today.
That was brave.
Out in the countryside. And there was, for a start, the number of solar panels in fields that have sprung up in the last year, 18 months. It left me sort of, my jaw was just sort of open, just thinking, what on earth has happened here? And all along the road into the main city of this region, signs everywhere saying, vote no to this solar plant. We're against these solar panels here. It is a deeply unpopular thing. And we talk about how it's good for the environment. I'm sorry. Caking over the countryside, natural habitats, agricultural land with these appallingly damaging for the environment solar panels made in China in dreadful conditions and which degrade and then end up polluting the countryside that way. I don't know how on earth we have allowed this to happen.
Completely agree. And there's the madness of it, right? When you're listening to this ideology of net zero, when the other countries in the world that pollute far more than us don't give a damn, and that's a fact, and yet we're set on this course of total madness to get this done, to fluff the feathers of all these do-gooders. The truth of the matter is, apart from destroying the beautiful countryside and the natural habitat that you talk about, these solar panels and these wind farms are never going to create enough energy to sustain the British people, which means, and we know this, right? What will happen is we will have to import electricity from other countries and it will cost more and people's bills will go up. And the truth of the matter is, like him or loathe him, the orange man baby, drill, it's underneath the ground, for Christ's sake. And somebody the other day on the show said something I thought was excellent. For all the people who disagree with fracking, give them free energy bills, give them discounts if they're nearby. I don't understand how this country can get it so wrong. I really don't.
I mean, per square footage, this country has far greater resources than the US does when it comes to shale gas or oil. We would be more than self-sufficient. We could have the cheapest energy bills in the developed world if we wanted to, but we have the most expensive because we have chosen not to. And the simple fact of the matter is, even if people are worried about running out of fossil fuels, that's not going to happen for an extraordinary long time. And in the interim, there is nuclear power to build. We have the ability, we have the resources to build nuclear power stations, and in the meantime, see no increases to our energy bills by using our fossil fuels to bridge the gap from A to B. We have chosen not to. We have chosen this excruciatingly expensive route. And we've done it all because of a mad ideology. Not because of practicality, because some people are zealots on this issue.
Listen, I completely agree. Dee says, for you as well, if you can't afford a new gas boiler, you certainly won't be able to afford a new heat pump, which is true. Ken Child says, ask Benedict this is, why do we not charge all people going to hospital who don't have an NHS number? Great show. Keep the faith, Ken in Spalding. That's a great idea, isn't it?
It is, but again, I was having this conversation with somebody earlier. We seem to have, or at least I say we, our political elites seem to have this bizarre squeamishness when it comes to actually enforcing rules for people who are non-British citizens. And you can almost see that in the way that we hand out British citizenship and residency to any all and sundry who just turn up with very little sort of parameters. We're too awkward to ask, oh, please, actually, would you pay your way? We're too awkward to say, oh, actually, would you mind, please, awfully learning our language if you're going to live here? No, you can't do that because it's prejudice and it's bigoted, couldn't possibly be seen to be beastly. That is literally the attitude of a lot of the people who make the rules.
Beastly, I love that word, beastly.
But that's what it is. It is a desire not to be seen to be uncouth or rude or ghastly from our political elites who do not have to deal with the NHS backlog,
Absolutely.
do not have to deal with the energy crisis. They just don't want to appear to be rude on the international stage or to their upper middle class friends. That's all this is.
Couldn't agree more. Hello to Tim, who says, I'm sorry, but filling the tunnel, Jez, with concrete won't work. You could fill it with politicians. That would be far more net zero. I think that's a very, very good idea. Now, you strike me as a classy gentleman. You always have, Benedict. You live there in the countryside. You've got drapes, not curtains. You've got oil paintings with mirrors, lights above them. It all looks very chic. Are you a cigar smoker, Spence?
I am, as it happens. In fact, if you'll give me 2 seconds, I'm going to open a drawer.
Oh.
And
ladies and gentlemen, this could...
Yes.
What is this?
As luck would have it.
There you go. A classy box of cigars. Well, let me tell you, Benedict Spence, very soon that is going to be against the law. The Labour Party want to shut down cigar lounges. They're calling for cigar lounges to be closed, cigarette filters to be banned, and a polluter pays levy to be imposed on the entirety of the tobacco industry. I make the point I always make. He's sniffing his cigar. I am not sitting here advocating anything, smoke, don't smoke, do what you damn well want. What the hell? In a minute, the state are going to tell us everything. This is nanny state madness, isn't it?
It is, and a lot of this is, of course, is they want to ban it in private members' clubs, which sort of, by definition, you should have the right to do these things.
In private?
Exactly. You're paying for the privilege of being in there. Everybody in a cigar lounge is going in there in the knowledge of what goes on in a cigar lounge, that you smoke cigarette. There is no such thing as second-hand smoke in a cigar lounge because that's what everybody's there for. And this is, I mean, this is proper... It's nasty stuff. It's class warfare. It's this idea that you don't know any better and that certain sorts of people shouldn't be allowed to pay to make decisions to enjoy in their own spare time. And, you know, we'll see this, and it's always done because tobacco is an easier thing to go after because it sort of very obviously causes cancer. But the second that they do this, the second that they're able to reach further and further into your private sphere, they will do it with other things. So if you think they'll stop at cigars and not alcohol or certain types of food, you've got another thing coming. They'll come for that as well in the privacy of your own clubs, of your own parties, in your own homes eventually.
I'm going to get utterly depressed. Honestly, we're giving money to the French. The NHS is crap. You can't have a cigar. If you don't get an electric vehicle or a heat pump, you're going to be thrown out and freeze to death. And on top of that, people in Luton are being attacked. Have you ever been attacked by a bird?
No, I've also never been to Luton.
No. Well, I think that's probably brave, but there we go.
I think that's what I think that this is what this bird is saying to people. You know, go back the way you came. You know, that this is not the place for you. I think that this is a rather prescient bird, frankly.
Fantastic. Well, there are several depressing birds. Benedict Spence, don't light a cigar on air. Thank you very much indeed for being part of the show. Love him. Benedict Spence, Conservative commentator. What is it? 5:23. So many people texting. Jez, ask Ryan if the Hawks supports Watford. Does like Luton supporters. Very interesting. Great show last night. Good to see you on TV again. Thought Mike Graham was there at the beginning and then he seemed to disappear. Why was this? Trevor in Harrow. Because he had to go to bed. Eagle-eyed. Can I say eagle? Oh, my God. Dave Turner, joking apart, Jez, how many more people like Alan and his poor wife are suffering in the UK? This was the call we took earlier, and this is what this show and this station's about. Alan was saying, you know, my wife's got stage 4 cancer, not getting the help through chemotherapy and the diagnoses and all that sort of treatment and belief that she should have, and he blames the NHS and says it's not as efficient as it was. Dave says, like yourself, I've had cancer, had my tongue and floor of the mouth removed along with a few other bits and bobs. QA Hospital in Portsmouth were amazing, and I count myself very lucky for the care I received at the time, but my heart goes out to people like Alan and his wife. I wish them all the best, because actually is that sort of treatment, I guess I'm saying, looking at his email, is that something that doesn't happen anymore? But the problem is, I'm not criticising nurses and doctors who do an amazing job under very, very, very strenuous circumstances. It's just the reality. Jez, there's too many takers and not enough givers in the NHS and all our services. That's why we are 15 years behind Europe in cancer survival outcomes. Makes me so bloody angry, says Louise. Liz, regarding the NHS, my mother wasn't given enough care during her cancer. The nurses and doctors can only act on what the top dogs say, the bigwig docs that make all the decisions. I'm still so angry after my mother's passing. Sorry to hear that, my darling. Listen, 0344 499 1000 is the telephone number. Text to 87222. Loads more still to come. We'll get your calls on, we'll get your text read, we'll get you through to 7 o'clock where you'll go, oh, thank God he's over, and Kev's here. Back in 3.
Ensuring that your caller just there was talking about. But the ambiguity is the problem at the moment, certainly for people talking about it.
The uncertainty, and again, it's all very well. I completely understand the urge to sort of like get companies, and this happened actually a lot in his first term in office.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
About 5:27, we're live across the United Kingdom. This is JK on Drive. Thank you for making it Talk. It's the home of common sense and free speech, and we could sit here and we could talk about tariffs, trade tariffs. We could talk about the NHS. Yeah, people are angry about that. We could talk about the French. I'd close the Channel Tunnel. We can rant on about Mad Ed Miliband, the man who wants us to buy heat pumps and electric cars. Or we could talk about how the Labour Party want to, in fact, close cigar lounges. But what we thought we'd do is talk to one of the United Kingdom's greatest political journalists, who very rarely allows herself to be interviewed. No, sorry, she's not available. So we've got Alicia Fitzgerald. Hello.
Very good.
That was very French. Have you ever been dumped on by a bird? Did you hear the hawk story? You know about the hawk story, right?
Near Luton?
I mean, it's extraordinary,
it's
right?
It's crazy.
Mike just put it out there because he was bored with talking about trade tariffs. This bird, it only attacks men.
But I was going to say, it's doing more than dumping on them. It's like swooping down and scratching their heads.
I mean, this bloke had blood pouring everywhere.
Yeah.
It was absolutely outrageous. Have you ever incidents of being? Have you ever had your sandwich nicked? Have you had a pigeon poop on your head?
Maybe like a seagull or something, as in like stealing something.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had the head incident.
Sorry?
The head incident.
I don't think I've ever been attacked. You've just generally lost me there. 0344. Don't even go there. That's it. Listen, don't start. Not many people get me. Yes. 0344 499 1. I'm going to a call. Get yourself together, woman.
I'm fine.
I'm dribbling. Let's go to Newcastle. What?
Don't do that.
I know it's an old age thing. Let's go to Newcastle. Is it Gerald? Gerald, you're on Talk Drive. Save me. How are you, sir?
Hello, Jeremy. How you doing, mate?
I'm coming to Newcastle tomorrow. How are you? Yeah.
Give you some, but I'm at Newcastle under Lyme. You might be in the wrong place.
Oh, So you're in Newcastle under Lyne?
Yeah.
Well, you didn't put that, Jody, did you? You put Newcastle.
Well,
he's not a tuner, he's a limer. Pardon? What do you want to say, kidder?
Well, listen, I was waiting for a knee replacement, right? I waited 2 years.
Yeah.
I went to the local hospital.
Yep.
I mentioned it, Stoke Hospital.
Stoke?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've seen a consultant and everything.
Yeah.
And they made me an appointment at a private hospital, Buford up the road. They said, like, you get it done there. And when I went to see the consultant at the Buford Hospital, it was the same consultant at the Stoke Hospital.
Oh, God. Gerald, a lot of people with the NHS will say that it's unfair and the NHS should be given more money. The other side of the coin is, no, this money needs to be spent better. They need to cut out the middle managers. They need to concentrate on the people that need looking after. What's your take? I mean, the concept's great, but it doesn't work, does it?
No, my take is this. If you work for the NHS, you work for the NHS. You don't work for Buford at the same time. You rather work for one or the other.
Completely agree with you, Gerald. Good to have you on. Newcastle under Lyme. We'll return now to Alicia Fitzgerald, who's never had a head incident with a bird. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, fine.
Lovely to... Should we crack on?
Yeah, let's do that.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the NHS, because we're not talking about trade. All right, I'm going to give you 30 seconds on trade tariffs. I mean, I'm with Mike on this. Is it... I mean, do the British people, do people listening to this and watching, do they really... Does it matter until the prices happen? Trump's doing this for America. Are we going to have a trade deal? Why didn't Theresa May sign one in October 2017 when she was offered one? Are we being punished because we've left the European Union? But most people, on a serious note, Liz, you're just like, blah, blah, blah. How much is it going to cost me to do this, that or the other, right?
Yeah, definitely. But the thing with this tariff stuff is that it does kind of trickle down quite a lot. So obviously we've got issues with our economy and lack of growth in our economy. Making it harder to export our goods to other countries, including the US, will only really add to that. It's not going to help our growth. In fact, it's proven that it might actually hinder our growth even further. So I think given the issues that we already have about the economy and the stagnation, it's not really the best timing, and it probably will be felt maybe more than it would if we were in a thriving economy.
What should we do to combat it, in your opinion?
It's really... Do you know what? Because people always say, oh, Keir Starmer should just stand up to Donald Trump and turn around and retaliate. The trouble with that is we are a standalone country, right? Like, what really can we do? The US has more money than us, more power than us, and a lot more to
and a president who cares about the American people and has the balls to do what he says he's going to do.
But in terms of, like, what really can we weaponise in return? Like, if we turn around to Donald Trump and say, oh, well, we're going to charge XYZ on something, chances are Donald Trump will turn around and say...
So we are America's poodle?
Kinda.
Kinda? It's getting better, this, by
there you go, that's some good political
Where did that
analysis
come from? Political analysis on a woman who's never experienced... never mind. No, but it's true, isn't it? We find us... I mean, all the journalists at the moment will say one thing. Donald Trump is calling the shots. But like him or loathe him, he is doing everything he can to not justify... that he said he was going to do to the American people.
Yeah,
and for them.
I do think there's a world in which he likes, because he's done this before, he'll make a really big kind of scary announcement to slightly see how everyone reacts and see what everyone does, and then slightly row back on it afterwards. Kind of, he's had his fun, he's asserted himself, he's made sure that he's the dominant figure, I guess, in the world, and then he sometimes goes back slightly or softens it. So I think there's a world in which that could happen.
That's a business. That's a business. You know, that's the billionaire businessman who likes to cut the deal and call it that way. That's sort of trade. And I'm sort of with you, but I find it quite depressing that we're either America's poodle or incapable of moving or making a decision. And you know, I'm old-fashioned, right? So this is an island. We fought 2 world wars. We need to concentrate on making what we make better, making our businesses better. That's not by increasing taxation on business and giving workers rights that are ludicrous, and make things well enough to sell abroad because there's a demand for them. And I don't think that British industry is where it's at. And I think it's very easy to stand around and say, I mean, you're going to laugh at this, but think about after the Second World War. Germany was absolutely decimated, and quite rightly too, but some people would say too much, and they went into themselves. Everything that's brilliant comes out of Germany. BMW, Bang & Olufsen, think about everything. Mercedes, they're an extraordinary production. And 60, 70 years ago, they were not in the sphere they are. I think we need to get our heads out of our backsides, if I'm being completely honest.
But sorry.
No, go.
I agree, and that's the trouble, though, is it? We don't currently have enough to offer to be able to stand up for ourselves in the way that we should. If we provided and we exported things that were so vital to the rest of the world, like lots of other countries do, then very easily Keir Starmer could turn around and say, actually, no, hang on, that's not happening, and other countries would...
And I'll be really honest, I thought that's what Brexit was about. I thought that we would go into ourselves and create and make a demand for our stuff, but we now have a government that talks about growth and screws anybody with a medium and small sized business. Quite concerning. NHS satisfaction, this was shocking today. Only 21% of the British public think the NHS does a good job. And I was just on a serious note making the point that to me it's always been on this pedestal, right? So people go, oh, the NHS, great. Yeah, but it's like the ECHR doesn't work today. And there is no doubt when I took a call from a nurse who said it's ridiculous. They chase net zero. We've got a creative art director putting up pictures around the hospital to make patients feel better on their journey. And the reality is, you know, we're not providing the service. And you can argue because other people haven't paid in, but it needs to be stripped out. It's catastrophic waste, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's what the government say they're trying to do at the moment with the whole idea that they got rid of that duplicated department that was basically in the NHS England and also in the government health department. Basically, there were 2 kind of managerial sectors that were doing the same kind of thing, all getting paid semi-decently in varying degrees, and they decided that wasn't necessary. So I think that's kind of the goal there, but it needs to go a lot further, I suppose. If NHS has record amounts of money being given to it, so it's not that it needs more money necessarily. I mean, it always will need more money. It's we've got an ageing population, people getting more ill.
But if you were a business, if that was my business and it was being given £200 billion a year and it was providing the service that it is, I would be sacked. I don't. You know, the problem is, Alicia, it becomes an argument where people think that I'm being unfair. They spent £80 million last year on interpreters. Now, before the do-gooders jump up and say blah, 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 the truth is that if any person from this country went to a foreign country and demanded a hotel and an interpreter and first-class medical treatment and all that, you might say, oh, that's great. It's not going to happen. But it happens here. And there has to be a realisation amongst the political classes, I think, that yes, of course we should help people, but we need to look after people in this country first. I feel really strongly about it. I can't get away from it.
Yeah, but I think with the NHS, it's like there's so many different issues. Also got the fact that we have doctors, loads of doctors being trained in the UK, loads of people doing medicine degrees, and then quite frankly they go into the NHS, they are working absolutely ridiculous hours overnight in a job that requires you to be really alert and well rested. You know, it's people's lives at stake here. They're working crazy hours, they're getting paid really badly considering the 6, 7, 8, 9 years of training they've had to do beforehand, and then they just say, do you know what, I can't do this, I'm going to move abroad where I get paid 4 times the amount. The work-life balance is a lot nicer.
But to me, that's like the dentistry. I would give them a contract. I would actually not have them pay for themselves for 7 years and skint themselves out so that they're so hacked off they disappear off. I would say, right, you're going to be an NHS doctor. We're going to invest in you, but we're going to make you sign a contract. We're going to show you how your salary will increase, and we're going to give you a career path that you're happy with the view of getting to there. And we know we're going to get something back for our investment. That doesn't happen.
No, but that makes
doesn't happen.
total sense, really, doesn't it?
See, I could run the country.
There you go. Off you go. Next
Fracking.
venture.
Do you know how I deal with fracking? With the people that said this the other day. What about saying to the people in the areas that don't like fracking, we will compensate you by taking money off your energy bills, because that's our gas. It's ours. We can make some money.
Are you pitching to be PM?
No, not at all. The other thing is, you've never been attacked by a bird. What do you make about... Why are you laughing? What do you make about the end of cigar lounges? This is a mad, crazy Labour idea. I know, not advocating smoking, but it's nanny state, isn't it? Come on, no?
No.
What do you mean, no?
Look, being totally honest, I didn't actually know what a cigar lounge was until this story, because I'm not a smoker, and I do
But
feel
that's freedom of choice to go there. You're not going to get secondary smoke, right?
I totally understand. You know, I don't mind what other people do, but it's a bit outdated, is it not? You can't smoke inside anywhere else. Like, do we need special rooms? You can smoke in your house. It's your house.
But the problem is, if you say we don't need special rooms, then you're telling people what they can do and what they can't do. If a bunch of people who want to smoke cigars want to go to a room where there's no secondary smoke, what's so bad about that?
Who goes to these rooms? Do you go to these rooms?
No, I don't go to them. Benedict Spence does.
Of course he doesn't.
Well, of course he doesn't. He had a packet of cigars. You love that, don't you? But no, that's true. You think that's okay?
Well, I just think, is it the most important thing in our society, having a space that...
No, but
people
for
can go and
certain
smoke
people in our
cigars?
society, they want to smoke a cigar. How can you take that away from them?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, look...
You don't care, do you?
To be quite honest, no.
No. I love the fact that you're honest. Bang & Olufsen are Danish, not German, you idiot, says Sean from Birmingham. So that's quite embarrassing, isn't it? Can you think of anything German? Bosch. Bosch.
There we go. That's a good brand.
That's what I meant to say, not Bang & Olufsen, Sean in Birmingham. Oh, Bridlington.
You're all right.
No.
Having a moment.
How does... All right, I'm 60 soon. Anyway, thanks for... So you've definitely not had a woman attack your head. Alicia Fitzgerald will return because she's intricately part of this show now. We love you.
Thanks.
You're being used a lot across the network.
What does that mean?
Is anybody else used during this show? Is it?
Used and abused.
Just get out. 20 to 6, this is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome Back 18 minutes to 6. Thank you to Alicia Fitzgerald. 0344 499 1000 is the telephone number. Some calls in a tick. Loads of text today. Stuart, Jezra, I'm amazed 21% think the NHS is doing a good job. They must just all be NHS employees. Neil, this is interesting. I just got an email from my energy provider that my dumb meter installed in 2017 is now out of date and must be replaced, capitals in that, with a smart meter which cannot and does not save me money but allows the energy provider to switch me off. Marxism under Starmer is happening as I type. Neil in Labour, obliterated Wales. Jez, why build solar panels on cropland? It's all going on. Why build solar panels on cropland when we could build them on the side of banks of motorways on our hillsides not used for crops? Why cropland? Could not agree more. James is in Hitchin. Somebody's got to be. Read the Channel Tunnel. I've never lived in a cul-de-sac in my entire bloody life. Very interesting. Caroline says, you talk complete sense about the Channel Tunnel because access for illegal migrants is easier. Although it's a tunnel, it's still connecting our land to others. I agree, says Caroline. I think fill the Channel Tunnel in. I've said it for a long time. I'm with Jeremy Kyle on filling the Channel Tunnel in. See Peter Carball, you'll be listening, I know you. They're all supporting me. The best two-looking talk presenters in one shot, says Rachel. When was that? An hour ago. Who was on an hour ago? Who was on an hour ago? Mike Graham. I say it's not going to be Peter Cardwell. Mick in Wallington. Hello, Mick. I went to an elephant sanctuary in South Africa. I don't know where this is going. The keeper gave me a bucket of turnips and was chased by a young elephant trying to trunk me. I ran and got into the back of a lorry. Imagine being trunked by... good. 0344 499 1000. We'll go to Glasgow, I think. Mark, good afternoon. You're on Talk Drive.
Jeremy, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. How can I help you?
NHS. Don't start. I've experienced health services in Europe and in the UK, and it would appear that we seem to have an industry of prevarication in the UK. Go into hospital, be checked, be sent for a consultant appointment in a few months' time, go for an X-ray and MRI a few months later. And so it goes on. In my case, a broken ankle and broken leg, undiagnosed when I went in by ambulance. It's taken 3.5 years before they finally did an ankle replacement rather than the little operation they could have done to stitch the ligaments back together within 48 hours of the incident happening. But they learned their lesson, you'll be pleased to know. And the truth of it is, in Europe, you go in, something wrong, you get sent next door to be X-rayed, MRI, whatever, that result comes straight back, and they say, right, we need to do this, we'll get you in for an operation in a week or two's time. In Britain, it's a lot, it just goes round in circles. I think I had 15 consultant appointments and MRIs and X-rays over the 3 years before finally getting the thing done. That's ludicrous, and the expense is nuts.
I think that's the point, and the problem is, and this is because of a survey, if you're just tuning in today, that says 21%, only 21% are satisfied with the NHS, which to many of us is shocking that even 21% do. I think it's a very difficult subject, of course, Mark, because the minute you start criticising it, people think you're being critical of nurses and doctors. No. It is extraordinary, the treatment that one gets, but there is no doubt these people are working with their hands behind their back, and whether it's net zero or it's efficiency or it's diversity, inclusivity, just there is, as Benedict Spencer did, catastrophic waste in the National Health Service, and until that is improved, right, people will continue to bleed. I don't personally believe, I really don't, right, I don't personally believe that giving it more money, that's just pouring money down the drain. They need to, I gave the example earlier, 80 million a year on interpreters. Are you joking me? That's just, I mean, what does that tell you?
Jeremy, in Europe, if you want an interpreter, you take one with you. The health service doesn't pay any country in Europe, and so it should be over here.
Couldn't agree more. Great to have you on, Mark, in Glasgow. Thank you. We're not going far. We're going to Aberdeen. Tracy, you're on Talk Drive. Very good afternoon. How are you?
Hello, Jeremy. How are you?
Not too bad for a balding 60-year-old has-been. Just got a couple of minutes with you, I'm afraid. What would you like to say?
I just wanted to say that my husband this afternoon went to pick my mother and father-in-law up from the Aberdeen airport. They've just come off a flight from Gatwick via Egypt.
Yes.
Sharm el-Sheikh. They were there for a week. And I said to my husband, how did they get on? Oh, they had a great time, but it's no use for you. And I said, why is that then?
Sorry?
He said, it's not a holiday for you. And I said, why is that? And he said, my mother has been bitten so much with mosquitoes that she had to go and see a doctor.
Oh.
And she got 2 separate appointments where she had to be linked up to an intravenous drip.
Mm-hmm.
And my father-in-law said, you know, how much is this going to cost? And he said, £3,080. He says, oh, but you're insured, are you? He says, yeah, I'm insured. So that was like 2 appointments, like an hour each time. So he was going to get charged £3,080.
This is in another country?
That was in Egypt.
So what are you trying to say to me, that actually the NHS in Great Britain's OK?
Well, what I'm trying to say is, you know, if someone from another country comes here, we get it for free.
Completely.
You know, we
Completely.
don't even have to have insurance.
Absolutely.
Get it.
Completely. And what do you say to the people, very quickly, and I wish I had more time, what would you say to the people, the left-wingers who say, you're being really unfair, these poor people come to this country from war-torn countries, we should give them free medical help? What would you say to that?
Well, there's a long waiting list of British people who have worked hard in this country all their lives. My mother died of terminal cancer, and it was like 18 months of just sheer hell. I had only ever seen the NHS from the outside, from outpatients. But once I was involved with them on a daily basis, I really got my eyes opened to see what really goes on in the hospital. And I was shocked.
Great to have you on, Trace. Sorry it couldn't be longer. Really appreciate your call from Aberdeen. Tracy there saying treatment in a foreign country, 2 appointments would have been £3,000. Here, you can get it for free. 10 to 6 on Talk Drive.
When you're actually dealing with the individual people, with lovely doctors and nurses, I mean, well, most of the time, you know, and you feel like once you've got in, you've got a good service, and you felt some sympathy for them that they were working in a difficult circumstance.
That's right. And then after COVID, where nothing has returned, the services appear worse. You can't actually criticise it because then you're told, oh, well, you mustn't do that. It's a bastion of being British.
Doesn't stop us.
Absolutely ridiculous.
I think that's again, phrase the day, the ship has sailed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
7 minutes to 6. It's Wednesday night. Push the button, Ames.
Sport Summary on Talk.
Not for me to say that I created him, but he's doing rather well for himself. Talk Sports league commentator live from the Etihad. Manchester City tonight. Good God, man. Ian Danter, look at you. What's happened? You're grey, man. You're grey.
Yeah, that's talking to you, Jezza. That's all that. I'm catching you up, mate.
Do you want to publicly thank me for everything I did for your career?
I think I've done that about 15 times, by my reckon. Go on, let's make it a 16th. Thank you for everything you've done for me.
Manchester City, Leicester tonight. 7:45 kickoff. Amongst a plethora of Premier League games, we're going to run through them and get your. How many games are there tonight?
Yeah, that's right. There's 6 tonight.
Right, we're gonna have some predictions, but TalkSport live from Manchester City, yeah.
Yeah, well, TalkSport have got Brighton against Villa.
Yeah.
And TalkSport 2 has Manchester City, Leicester City. So there's a few main focuses tonight. You've got the Merseyside derby at 8 o'clock, Liverpool against Everton.
Yeah.
But the chase for the 5th place in the Premier League is hotting up because if you go from Chelsea in 4th, who are on 49 points, you can go down to Bournemouth in 10th on 44. So there's only 5 points between. Most of them have played 29 games, so most have got 9 games left to go. And it's very, very tight. It looks almost certain that England is going to get a 5th qualification spot for the Champions League because of the coefficient. So you've got teams like Brighton, Newcastle and Bournemouth all playing at home tonight with a chance to close the gap on Manchester City, who are in that 5th Champions League spot at the moment. But, of course, Manchester City here tonight are playing a Leicester side who've lost their last 6 in the Premier League without scoring.
But they played a game more than Newcastle, who are at Brentford, and you won't believe this. I was just on FaceTime to my mate Rob, and Alan Shearer's in the car. They're after the game. He's been celebrating for 2 weeks since they won that Carabao Cup. The whole city. Yeah. I mean, it's been a bank holiday 2 weeks in the Tomb. We're up there this weekend. Newcastle have that game in hand. You'll laugh. Chelsea tomorrow night against Tottenham, I think, is a draw. I think the Newcastle will end up in the Champions League spots.
It all depends. It all depends on how they react to having won the trophy.
Yeah.
Because I think back to when my team, Birmingham City, won the trophy back in 2011, our next home game against West Brom, we were just awful, and we lost 4-0. I remember Tottenham winning it back in 2008. They came to us the week after winning it, and they were awful.
God, I bet you dream of that now as a Birmingham City fan. Where were you yesterday? Barrow, were you yesterday? Were you? Good God, man! Are you
Bristol
still
Rovers, mate?
Are you still supporting Birmingham City, who spent £38 trillion to lead League One by 9 points? Come on, man!
Well, there you go. I know we're the most hated club in the league, but that's fine. I can live with that. We'll be joining you, West Hammers, back in the Premier League very soon. Don't you worry.
Well,
but Newcastle just have to be a little bit careful that the exuberance and the celebrations that have accompanied the last 2 weeks don't sort of blend into what they've got to do. Eddie has probably the best sort of manager to stop that.
Just very quickly, and we'll do some predictions, but does the Carabao Cup get the Toon into Europe anyway?
They'll get European football regardless, but I think they would prefer to be back in the Champions League than Europa. So the top 5 is still the carrot that they're chasing, and they're not the only ones. As I mentioned earlier, you go from 4th down to 10th, and it's up for grabs.
Right, let's do some predictions. Bournemouth going well at home against Ipswich. For me, that's a Bournemouth win.
Should be, but Bournemouth haven't been brilliant lately. They've sort of dropped off a little. They've lost 1 or 2 players, but they should have enough to win by the odd goal in 3-2-1.
Brighton and Hove Albion at home to Aston Villa. 7:45 kickoff. This has draw written all over it.
Agreed. I think that's a draw. That both teams are playing well. I watched Villa on Sunday, played very well in knocking out Preston in a pressure fixture. But yeah, a 2-2 draw.
Man City, you're covering for TalkSport 2 against Leicester City. Leicester, an absolute nothing's happened for Van Nistelrooy. 17 games, just 1 victory. Pretty routine win. I do think Leicester City will sneak a goal, but I think 3 or 4-1. I think Manchester City will overpower them.
Sounds about right. No Haaland for City tonight. He's got his ankle knocked that he picked up, but Marmoush has scored all his Premier League goals here at the Etihad. I think he'll get a couple more here tonight. 3-0.
The Toon will win against Brentford. They'll win comfortably tonight. Come on, the Toon. Soon I'm going to abandon West Ham just out of loyalty for all my friends.
Maybe, but in Brentford, their away form has picked up a little. Their home form was brilliant first half of the season. Now their away form is much better second half. I saw the reverse fixture, which some saw some of the worst defending ever when Brentford won 4-2. I think, yeah, maybe 1-0 to Newcastle could be tight.
Next game's interesting. Southampton Palace. Southampton looking to avoid being the worst team in the league with a home tie against Crystal Palace. They've only got 9 points. They've lost about 375 games. Their manager admitted about 6 months ago they were going to go down. However, shockingly, I'm going to say that Palace and Southampton will draw after the euphoria of the FA Cup for Palace.
No, don't see that at all. I see this as a comfortable Palace victory.
Ryan, the producer's shaking. He's a bloody Watford fan. What do you know? Finally, Merseyside derby. I'm going to shock you even more.
Go on.
I think this has got draw written all over it. I think David Moyes, who, you know, I was gutted to leave because I don't understand the Hammers fans. I think he's done a phenomenal job at Everton. And I'm sorry to say this to Sean Dyche, but what he's done to that team in 10 games, Dance, fantastic.
6 unbeaten, although the last 4 games have all been draws. And, of course, they got that dramatic late draw at Goodison in the reverse fixture, a month and a half ago with that volley from Tarkowski. So, I agree with you. I don't put it past Everton to take a point away from Anfield tonight either.
It's always a pleasure to speak to you. This man made his name. We used to work on a radio station in Birmingham called BR&B, and he used to do the Bormy Brummies You Drive time. You were mentioned on ITV's Live Stories last night.
I saw the picture, Jez. I was humbled. Truly humbled to see that picture.
Very,
when we all had jawlines.
Mate, we all had jawlines, we didn't have bellies, and we all had a few more. We had less kids and a bit more money. Listen, kidder, great to see you. TalkSport 2 tonight with the amazing Ian Danter, live from the Etihad. This is Talk Drive. We're live across the UK on the home of free speech and common sense. An hour to go. Whatever you want to talk about, tariffs, the French, whatever, 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. We'll do the news, which is coming your way, my friends, next here on Talk. Enjoy.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Back 2 minutes past 6 into the final hour of Drive for Wednesday. We're live across the UK. I think I am slowly morphing into my father. Obviously, that's difficult because he's dead, but I think I am, in fact, morphing into my late old man. I've just heard our newsman, Mr. Willie, say, and I quote, we're going to be told, don't mow your lawn this winter this summer because it'll kill the butterflies. Don't go to a cigar lounge and have a cigar. Don't sit in a pub garden and have a cigarette. Don't do this, don't do that. God, it's like honestly, I genuinely think we're going to end up in a Marxist nanny state. Hello to Tim, who says, re your last caller. She was saying it was 3,000 quid to see a doctor twice. He said, I hope it was English pounds, because if that was in the Egyptian currency, that's £45. JK says, I think it's Mark, on the subject of cigar lounges, it may not be high on your list of priorities, but the real question should it be high on the government's list? How many consultant groups will be involved? How many politicians will be involved in a parliamentary cross-party group? How much will this bureaucratic crap cost the taxpayer? Very interesting. There's a man to answer everything, from the French, right, to the NHS, to hawks attacking people, cigar lounges, anything you want. This man comes free of charge because he loves it. Shadow crime, policing, fire and illegal immigration minister. How many jobs can you have in one? Matt Vickers, MP, a very good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm slightly less convinced I have all the answers to all the questions, but we'll give it a damn good go. I am fine and dandy.
First, look at that picture of Tony Blair with a mask on behind you. That's outrageous, Vickers. What's going on? So you are the shadow crime, shadow policing, shadow fire, shadow illegal... You're now the illegal immigration minister. When did you add that little caveat?
Well, somebody's got to do it, haven't they? You know, I thought it's all the quiet subjects that no one's interested in, you know.
Are you teacher's pet, or are you just the go-to guy?
I think I must, you know what, there are big issues. There are big issues that affect my constituents. They affect the country, and I want to get stuck in and make the difference to them.
Good man. I don't want to talk about trade tariffs, because honestly, your average person on the street is more interested in the dissatisfaction with the NHS. And this is me at my most serious, right?
The problem with the trade tariffs thing, though, is that it's going to have huge consequences for us in terms of cost.
Then make the bloody deal. Why didn't Theresa May make the deal with the Americans in 2017?
Well, we were a hell of a long way along the line with Trump. If Biden hadn't been there would be a deal in place now. And actually, there's been work going on behind the scenes, putting in place memorandums of understanding with individual states. Texas, we've got memorandum of understanding with Texas. Its economy is bigger than that of Italy. There is already trade going on. We now need to protect it, and we need to get around the table and make sure it happens. I'm hopeful that the government, I'm desperately hopeful that the government has got something on the cards and that we aren't going to be hit by
I think he'd struggle to convince his parliamentary party and his cabinet to do a deal with the Americans. That would just be my statement. My point that I guess making was, and I'm not being I know it's important and it impinges and all that, but on face value, Matt, there's so much going on in this country that the British public are concerned about, and until it shows in their pocket. I mean, this survey out today, public satisfaction with the NHS has dropped to an historic low. 1 in 5. I'm surprised it's 1 in 5. I've sat and I've listened to, you know, and I make the point again, I'm not criticising the staff. I think anybody with a brain cell has to work out that it's not about any more billions more of pounds. It's about a catastrophic waste. It's about efficiency. It's about stripping it out. We had the example earlier from Benedict Spence. You'd know this. 80 million spent on interpreters. Well, I'm sorry, whether people are going to go, well, that's outrageous. No, it's not, because if that happened in a foreign country, you'd have to pay for your own interpreter. That is an absolute fact of life. That surely isn't wrong, Matt, to say. That's not right. That spending that isn't right.
So on interpreters, really fascinating thing that has really got to be in my bonnet, and I'm a man possessed about the fact. I went out to a charity, a death organisation, a company, organisation, community interest company, whatever you call it, a group who work with deaf people, and they were telling me about the horrors for deaf people of trying to engage with the council and engage with the job centre. The ability to have an interpreter there with it, you can do it now, all this stuff on iPads and what have you. The guy in the council office on the reception desk cannot give them that interpretation. A deaf person, a person born with a disability, cannot get access to that interpretation. Yet that same council last year spent £79,000 on interpretations. You could probably speak any damn language and get an interpreter for it, but deaf people who need access to these services and need the assistance and help, it's just appalling, unbelievable. And when you see that sort of volume of money being spent in the NHS, you just beggars belief, doesn't it?
And it's really, and I know people will go, oh, you've got a one-sided view. I haven't. I've said it repeatedly. If we were in a better position, I'm very happy to help people who genuinely need help. I'm very happy for people from war-torn countries, but it's becoming a bit of a something take, isn't it? Because if we're saying to people, come to our country illegally, Because you know you get a hotel and you'll get a 4-star hotel, you'll get a medical check the following day with a private GP, you'll be able to see a dentist, we'll do our best to make you feel welcome, we'll get you an interpreter. That's all well and good, Matt Vickers, but there are people all over this country who are getting more and more hacked off with the fact that they feel they're at the back of the queue, and actually, I know it's a bugbear of mine, they paid for it and they're getting zilch.
Well, the thing, I mean, when you look at the NHS and look at these specific points around, I mean, the thing that's knocking everybody in my part of the world, there's two reasons. Well, two reasons I think they've come up in this survey. One is about A&E wait times. And when you go, so I do a shift with the hospital every now and again, go in, look behind the scenes, speak to those people who are on the front line, who are working their damn socks off to give those doctors, nurses, and all the other people actually work in the hospital who work their socks off to support people. Part of the problem with the entire thing is you go into A&E as an older person, you end up shuffled through the system with whatever treatment you have. A lot of those older people then need support at the other end, and we don't have the care places to look after them. So there is people in beds in the hospital effectively log jamming the place because they can't get the social care they need at the other end. But this isn't getting any better, because what have the government done since they come in? They've whacked everybody with these national insurance rises. They're hitting, I've been in care homes in my constituency, it's now, is this sustainable? Can they viably run a care home when they're having to pay out even more to employ people on some of the lowest wages, actually, who are working incredibly hard in the care service, whacked by this national insurance, putting another cost that then has to be put onto the people who are in the care home and their kids who are trying to get, it's just completely counterproductive. But even with dentists, massive problem in my part of the world. They're getting whacked with national insurance.
Yeah, but you talk about that. So
anybody wants to work hard and get on is getting slammed.
The dentists, I've got a simple answer for, and the doctors. I wouldn't allow dentists or doctors to get into debt while they study for 7 years. I'd employ them, I'd pay for their training, and I'd make them sign a contract that said that this was your career path, this is what you'd earn, this is the next 10 years. You have to, if we train you, guarantee you'll give us 10 years back. I don't understand this. We're training dentists, we're training doctors, and they bugger off because the service is so bad, the treatment's so bad, and the wages are so low. Make any sense at all?
But there's two things on that front. So there is now a requirement, or there was by the last government that came out, to require you to work into the NHS. If the taxpayers funded your place, you should damn well be in there. You should be paying it back and assisting all those people who helped to pay you through the system. And then the other thing that we've got that's a bit of a bizarre thing in this country is that we have people coming into this country from all over the world. We've talked about the challenges that brings. But if you come in as a dentist, to have your qualifications matched up against those in the UK is actually a really time-consuming, long-winded process to get signed off to be able to practice dentistry. If we've got all these people coming in, we should be making sure the ones that are of help to us, that can benefit our health service, should be the people front and centre of the queue. And whatever the admin process, that's the first one you should take an axe to. But the problem with the NHS is, before the election, people could tell what was going to happen when Labour ran the NHS. They could have looked to Wales, saw the biggest queues, the biggest waiting lists in Great Britain by a country mile, and they're in Wales. Completely mismanaged system over there, and that's what we were going to get. It was there for all to see. Here it is, and now it's arriving across the rest.
Do you agree with me, before we move on to your brief, one of your 87 briefs, Shadow Illegal Immigration Minister, do you agree that all parties tend to still look at it, this sort of revered on a pedestal thing, that we need to get our heads out of our backsides and say, the concept was great, right? But actually it's not fit for purpose. I'm sorry, it's a fact. I know that's going to make people go, oh my God. But we've got a bigger population, a much older population. The demands, there's waste, there's inefficiency. We need to take it by the scruff of the neck. We need to make it efficient. We need to say 200 billion is enough. We need to rid it of the people and the leeches who are screwing it financially, and be brave enough to do that without, oh, we're going to upset people. Well, tough, it needs to work, doesn't it?
I mean, the NHS is essential to people in my part of the world. It's essential, but it does need to be efficient. You can't just keep throwing money at things and expect to get different results. The thing just gets fatter, more bureaucratic. There's no accountability in there. Because who do you go to if your local hospital isn't delivering the goods? Actually, it's so remote from the public. They come and tell their local council or MP. Their local council or MP doesn't drive the NHS. Doesn't have the power to tell the NHS to up its game or spend money in the right places. There is progress in the NHS. We've made progress in pumping more money in, but in some of the outcomes, we have made progress. In my part of the world, we've got this huge diagnostic hospital that I'm really proud of that's open. It's going to add 104,000 life-saving test checks and scans every year. That's really good. And the people who work in the NHS should be incredibly proud of the contribution that they're making.
I agree with that. I just think there's so much waste. Now, shadow illegal immigration minister, OK? Today, France has finally admitted that it needs to start intercepting more small boats and has even raised the possibility of taking back some illegal migrants from Britain. Macron's border chief, who knew he had one, said returning Channel migrants would send a very clear message that they should not bother risking their lives making the dangerous crossing. The French have come under massive fire for not only failing to stop the flow, despite being handed £500 million by the UK taxpayers for 8 years, started by you lot, which is £4 billion. We've actually got to the point where their navy has sort of escorted boats and said, you know, go and deal with that. I think this is one of the most... I mean, I'm not massively keen on the French or the Channel Tunnel. I've been very honest today. I think this is absolutely scandalous. And this started with you lot, so this isn't just Starmer. £500 million a year, and they are actively encouraging people to come to this country. The only reason the people on the beaches in France come to United Kingdom is because a tent is not as attractive as a hotel, and we are as soft as whatever, and we'll give them all the things that we've just talked about. How can we seriously, and you lot did this, how can we give them 500 million quid, Matt? It's ludicrous.
Well, we're giving them 500 million quid, and then all of a sudden they've come up with this rocket science idea that perhaps they should stop people travelling. It's insane. It is insane. But actually, it's only getting worse. You saw the figures. We've hit 30,000 now.
Yeah.
30,000.
But I mean, can I just have that? You've got to be honest. That money should be stopped to France immediately. It's ludicrous.
Well, the reality is that the government is now doing more of that. They're stopping this idea that you should deter people. We had a principle in law that if you came to this country illegally, you would be detained and removed. That was where we were going. That was the right thing to do. And actually what we're doing is we're throwing more money down channel, if you like, to other countries to let them do interventions. The reality is you can throw as much money as you want. Yeah, there may be ways to stop the flow, slow the flow, but if people are arriving in that safe country that is France and still getting in boats, we've got a fundamental problem. We have to tell them that if you come here, it's not happening. You're going back. That's where we need to be. But actually, on every metric, we're going the wrong way. The number of people arriving in the country since the general election has gone up by 31%.
That's because I'm trying to smash the gang. Final question, because you're a busy man. You've got 747.
Putting out the red carpet. That's what he's doing.
Yes, I agree with that. Where do you stand on the ending? I agree. Where do you stand on the banning of cigar lounges by the Labour government? We're heading towards a Marxist state, aren't we? I'm not going to be. They'll be telling me what underpants. Not that I wear underpants. They'll be telling me what to wear under my trousers next, won't they?
Well, it depends what you're wearing, I suppose. But, you know, you fruity types down here, you never know what you're going to wear.
You fruity types down south. What does that mean?
Down here, you do all sorts. But actually, in real terms, we won't even get as far as the exclusive cigar bar. They're banning you smoking in beer gardens.
Yep.
That is utterly balmy. You go outside into a beer garden, you're not going to be able to do that. That is insane. I don't know whether they're drawn by some sort of health thing or actually it's just a hatred of pubs. Keir Starmer hates the Great British Pub. He's slamming them with business rates increases. He's slamming them with the banning of you smoking in the damn beer garden. He's slamming them with national insurance increases. I'll tell you what, you look in the next 6 months, the pub round the corner from you is going to shut, the pub round the corner from me is going to shut, and our high streets are going to look nothing like they've looked. We've seen tough times for a long time for some of these small businesses, but actually he's taken an axe to them, and it is utterly horrific. It's the wrong thing to do for the economy. It's the wrong thing to do for communities across this country.
To finish, slightly light-hearted, but actually quite terrifying, Mike was doing this on breakfast. I don't know if you've heard the story today about the residents in a village near Luton have set up a petition to save a hawk that's attacked about 50 people. It attacks only men. They literally sent a camera crew. It attacked this man. There was blood pouring out of his head. It's a typical British story. Half want to save the hawk and half are terrified to go out and want to kill the hawk. I don't know if you've seen this, but very, very interesting text message just now from Sean in Bicester.
Sounds like some sort of Just Stop Oil activist.
Well, no, Sean in Bicester says...
randomly disrupting life in the village.
Sean in Bicester says, say this to Matt Vickers. In fact, I believe the hawk belongs to Sir Keir Starmer as it only attacks working-class white males. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Two-tier hawk.
Two-tier hawk.
Look, watch it. It's on. Look, I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it? Wait for it. Look. So there he goes for a walk. They're on the camera. Watch. Off it goes. But come on, bird. Hurry up. They're out filming. Bang. Wait till you see what it does. If you're watching on YouTube, this was a camera crew. This poor bloke gets attacked. Look at his head. Look, blood everywhere. Yes.
Has it got a name, this hawk?
No, nobody can name it. They don't want to kill it. Half want to say, oh, it needs feeding. This bloke's walking down the road. Look, bang, he gets attacked by it. But it's an angry bird, Matt Vickers. It only attacks men.
You want to see the seagulls in Redcar, Jeremy?
No, I don't want to go to Red. No, not
pale blood. But if you've got chips, my God, you're not getting anywhere between them and the chips.
Fantastic. I think very soon you'll be the shadow crime, policing, fire, illegal immigration and seagull minister. We love you very much for being on, Matt. Appreciate it very much. Matt Vickers, always great to have him on. Conservative MP for Stockton Heath. The man who says it as it is, admits all the failings of the Tories, but is enthusiastic and believes, is proud of this country, etc., etc. Thank you to him. To the phone lines, we'll head north to Manchester, where it's not raining. What a shock. Danny, you're on Talk Drive. Good evening. How are you?
How are we doing today, Jazz? Are you good yourself?
I'm good myself. What do you want to say, my friend?
I've got an idea. Like most ideas, it's a simple idea. It's a common sense idea. But the issue is nobody seems to talk about it. Yourself on the talk show, news reports, newspapers, they never really seem to come up with this idea about fixing the NHS.
Which is what?
Good ideas. The word is conflict of interest. So I've got plenty of examples of that. Is if you've got a doctor, if you've got a nurse, in their spare time, a lot of the time they're always working for private entities. Where they're out doing private surgeries, private call points. Now they're working full time for the NHS, and they're making more money by doing their own private entities. Now there's a lot of doctors, there's a lot of nurses that are full time employed. It's more beneficial for them to work for these private entities. But listen, I've worked in the public and the private sector. I cannot work for the same entity, for the same industry, because there's a conflict of interest there. There's a massive conflict of interest.
I would have thought, and I said this earlier about dentists and doctors and nurses, and some people won't like this. If you're going to train people, you want something back in terms of loyalty. But we then, the NHS, as employers, need to say to these people, we're going to pay you a salary that means that you don't want to go to Australia, or you don't want... We're going to show you a career path, and we're going to make it worth your while to be part of the British NHS, right?
Yeah, exactly. I've got so many examples. I understand it's a short time. I've got so many examples of friends, colleagues that have gone to the NHS. The NHS can't fit them in for whatever surgery or whatever rehab that they need. And then they end up going to a private entity. And guess what? They're dealt with by NHS staff on their time off.
Completely agree.
It's absolutely bonkers. So
Danny?
We've got two industries competing with each other when they shouldn't. There should be a conflict of interest. It should be written into their act of employment. Dead easy.
Red or blue?
Everyone asks you that one, but I am a red.
Manchester United.
Yeah, everyone asks. Everyone asks that one.
Have you got a sense of humour?
It depends on how much you're paying for one.
OK, I'm not paying. I'm just going to tell you, you said the word is conflict of interest. That's 3 words. Love you loads, Danny in Manchester. Thank you. Let's go to Cheshire. Matt, you're live across the UK on Talk Drive. How are you?
Hi, good evening, Jeremy.
Oh, Jeremy, that's quite... My mother used to call me that, but she's dead. But you're not. You're very much alive. I haven't got much time, mate. If you could crack on. Time is money and I'm skint.
Yeah, we're told constantly, mainly by Labour, we should be indebted to the foreigners that work for the NHS, and we need them desperately. Yet there's a direct correlation between the increase in foreigners working for the NHS and its massive deterioration over the decades. So why don't we just train our own people and stop using it as an excuse to bring immigrants into the country? A lot of the people that work for the NHS bring dependents with them as well. They also then use the NHS. So my main point is, in the 80s and 90s, when it was mainly British employees, the standards were a lot higher than they are now, and they're rapidly declining over the decades.
I couldn't agree more. I've said it before, people might disagree with this. You know, the Labour Party under Blair opened the borders and said we need people to come in to create, you know, sustainability. We haven't got enough people who want to work. Yet to this day, there are 4 million people. Don't tell me, thank you very much indeed, by the way, Matt, that everybody's mentally ill, disabled. There's at least 1.5 million people who are on benefits who need to work and need to be encouraged. I'd have them do the very jobs. I'd train them in the very good jobs that are the jobs that are available, because that, to me, would say, I'm paying you to sit on your backside and do nothing. I guess you want to give something back. I don't know. What do you make of it? 6:22. It's 0344 499 1000. Pamela Mitchinson. I don't understand this, Ryan. She says, it was lovely to see you on Life Stories last night. What a cutie you once were. Brilliant. Talk Drive.
Trump made very clear when he came into office, I'm going to make America great again.
Yeah.
He was looking at jobs, he was looking at tax reductions for his citizens. This is what he said he was going to do. We've seen how he sort of postures, we've seen how he peacocks, and I don't think he's looking for protectionism.
Right.
I think he's saying, I need now a balance of trade. We've been open, we've allowed your goods to come in, but you know what? You're not doing, you know, reciprocity for us, and that's what I'm looking to do.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
6:25. Sam Ellard has walked into the Talk studio, although he wasn't on sport. He's so busy now. We've given him a career. A very good. Listen, we were gonna think that we should get ourselves a top political commentator, following on from Matt Vickers, but we decided that we'd throw that out the window and we'd just deal with a used car salesman from Essex. How are you, Russell?
Yeah, I'm
Quirk?
very well. Sorry, I'm a little bit later than I normally am.
This is brilliant. Listen to this.
I don't even know what I'm going to say.
Yes, I do. Tell him about the car incident. What that
No,
bloke
I
said.
was going to say that I'm late because it took me a little while this morning to get over last night's television appearance, and in particular that haircut of yours from when you were about 11 or 12. It looked like a crash helmet.
I was 6. the person who gave me that haircut was my mother, who's dead.
Oh no, you can't do this.
And actually,
that's not nice,
you look like you've got a badger on your head because you had a hair transplant. I think, with the greatest
Should we not
respect,
talk about hair then?
I don't think that hair is your strong point.
Should we move on?
Cars. Tell this story because it's fantastic. That you sold a car today.
I did sell.
Right,
I sold a car.
mate,
I sold one of my cars last week.
One of my cars.
Two fellas turned up and they said, you know, we nearly didn't come and buy this car from you. I said, well, why is that? I said, there's nothing wrong with the car. And so he said, no, we were listening the other day to the Jeremy Kyle show. You were on it. And as you left the studio, we heard Jeremy say, don't buy a used car from this man. And they said, so we took that as maybe an omen that we shouldn't come and buy your car from you. But they did. Money's in the bank. Thank you very much.
Good. Apparently, Ryan sent me a message. Can you plug that you are here tomorrow?
Me or you?
What does that mean? What are you talking about? Oh, God! Oh, yes, I am here tomorrow. Sorry, see what happens?
I thought it was a show that they wanted me to do, which I didn't know about.
I thought it was another... Anyway, right, yes, I'm doing drive time tomorrow on a Thursday.
I'll do it if you want.
No, I'm doing it.
Are you? Sure. Thursday?
Yes, I'm doing... I'm working Thursday.
Don't you turn into a pumpkin if you
No, I don't turn into a pumpkin. I did ITV last night, so I thought I'd do Talk Thursday.
Wow.
It's nice, isn't it?
As a one-off.
Sorry?
As a one-off.
Watch this space.
Wow.
That old wine card will have... No, just... I know. I'm a 3-day-a-week man because I've so much more. But just this week we're doing Thursdays, which, to be honest, Jodie and Ryan are really upset about because they like working with Harry and Peter and they're upset. But they're going to have to deal with it, aren't they?
Yeah.
Russell Quirk, welcome to the show. Jodie, she's woken up. 0344 499 1000. What do you want? I'm going to start this slightly differently. Have you...
You always put me on the spot and talk to me about stuff that I haven't
Mad
prepped for.
Ed Miliband, right? He's been urged by energy suppliers to charge households more for running a gas boiler in the hope that that boosts people's desire to buy an eco-friendly heat pump or an electric car. Now, all seriousness, right, we talk about this incessantly because it's probably one of the most infuriating things. When you consider the state of this country, Russ, you consider how financially insecure we are, for want of a better phrase. Anybody and everybody knows that this net zero madness will bankrupt us. But now we're at a point where energy suppliers are going to force us to change. There is no desire for heat pumps, there's no desire for electric vehicles. Whatever people say, there isn't. How do you think that's going to be received, genuinely?
So you talk about insecurity. We will be insecure in terms of energy in the next 5 or 10 years if Ed Miliband has anything to do with it. Bearing in mind he has cancelled all of the oil and gas licences, that oil and gas that we have underneath the North Sea that would power this country quite happily for the next 20 or 30 or 40 years.
Crazy.
What this is, and apparently there's a disparity in levies between that which is charged for electricity and that which is charged for gas. Now, and I'm sure we'll talk about this in another segment in a second, my view on levies and tariffs is that we should have a free market and there should be no tariffs and there should be no levies because they are, I mean, they call them tariffs and levies, they're effectively a tax. There shouldn't, frankly, be any.
What, between countries?
No, I don't think there should be at all, because I think there should be a free market. And if you're a producer or a supplier of something, whether it be a goods or service, it should be good enough to want to be purchased by people in other countries regardless.
That's why we're useless in the United Kingdom.
Yes, and everyone's kicking off about tariffs. Britain charges tariffs already. So does the EU charge tariffs already. They are taxes. That's all it is. And who ultimately pays for the consequence of those tariffs? You and me and Ryan and Jodie.
Well,
and
not
Henry.
Ryan.
Well, not Ryan. He never buys anything, does he? Certainly not clothes. Anyway.
He must have a lot of money because he didn't spend any money.
But what this is, Jeremy, let's tell this
Jeremy,
how it is.
Where's that come from?
Well, it's because I'm channeling your mother, as you said earlier on.
Wow. Did you say channeling or digging her up? I mean,
channeling. What do you think I said? Wow.
No, well, I'm just being honest because it reminds me of having seen my father on the television last night because he was I don't care because he was so
you were
outrageous.
Emotional. I saw that. You were emotional.
No, but because one of the last things that I said to him because he was chasing women around the care home. He was a complete nightmare. He was lovely. I loved the both of him. But he was just
apple
cheeky.
Doesn't fall far from the tree.
And he said. Said you can't carry on like this. My mother will be turning in her grave. He went, no, we cremated her. It was amazing. He was fantastically funny.
So with no connection whatsoever, should we go back to boilers?
Oh, heat pumps.
Yes.
My mother wasn't a boiler. He called her the War Office.
So there's a huge lobby now over the last few days from people like investors and energy companies, surprise, surprise, to try and persuade the government to add taxation and levies to the cost of gas and boilers yes, to force us not to have boilers anymore. That's blackmail. That's
Yes,
a
it
net
is.
zero blackmail.
It's Marxist Stalinism. It's just complete. I think it's dreadful.
And quite apart from the fact that, you know, gas boilers have existed in this country in 20 million homes for, whatever, 50, 60, 70 years, we all know, if you talk to any half expert on the subject of heat pumps, they don't work.
No, they don't.
So
They're
not only
hugely expensive and they don't work.
They make loads of noise, they don't work, and of course, if we are to change from gas boilers to heat pumps, where are we going to get that level, that number of heat pumps? Where are we going to get the people to fit them? This is a pipe dream. This is just for the birds. It's, you know, Alice through the looking glass stuff. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't
Can
work.
I just say that one of the things that's extraordinary about working with you, apart from your hair, is actually the way you seamlessly manage, without any planning, or we do, to go to the next subject. You said that's for the birds.
Yeah, that's they call it a segue.
The best story of the day is Hawkwood.
Watch and learn.
Do you know? Really? Do you know? It's a seg. Yeah. Do you know the hawk story? This is absolutely fantastic.
I did
Mike
see a bit earlier on.
Yesterday.
The attacking hawk.
Residents in a village in Luton are sort of split. It's typical British story. This hawk apparently, when the video footage, you won't play it again, but it seems to just attack men at all times of the day. And this reporter was sent out, and they were talking to a bloke, and out it came, and it blood pouring all over this guy's an absolute nightmare. Half the village want to save it, and half want to cull it.
Yeah.
And it's caused, as ever, complete outrage, which sort of led us to say, you know, what animal have you been attacked by? But people are saying it's actually Keir Starmer because it only attacks white middle-class men. Have you ever been attacked by a bird?
I live in Essex, so yes.
Have you?
Of course, yes.
Wow.
There's all sorts of things we could say there, isn't there, in terms of
well, I wouldn't
Essex,
be so rude.
Essex girl jokes that we cannot repeat.
No.
Have I ever been attacked by a bird?
Had your chips nicked at the seaside?
I've been bitten by a dog, still got the scar when I was a counsellor.
It's not a bird, is it?
Well, no, but it's the closest I can get because I haven't been bitten by a bird.
Good.
I thought you were going to ask me what we should call it if it's a kind of nasty, spiteful bird that has a go at men. Call it Jess Phillips.
Wow. NHS dissatisfaction today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, record numbers of us. I mean, I was so shocked when they said that 21% of us, only 21%, think it's good. I was shocked it was that many.
And is this people that have used the NHS, or is this just the general population?
Don't know the answer to that, frankly. I mean, if I had a better producer, he'd have given me that information, Ryan. But
quite an important thing to know, Ryan.
It is,
just saying. Yeah.
Pick your legs up, come on.
Look, I'm not surprised, are you? The NHS we know is not fit for purpose.
No, it's not.
We have spent years and years through various political cycles talking about the NHS, and it needs more money, it needs more money.
No,
it now has £200 billion siphoned towards it every year. The amount of money per patient per capita has never been more, so clearly money is not the answer. There is no accountability in the NHS when it comes to managers and senior executives. No one cares about the money or efficiency or performance because no one's accountable. I would not go as far as to say that we should privatise it, but I do think that we need to think about a privatisation type mentality.
Yeah,
a private sector
different
mentality.
parts,
Yes.
and
it's never going to get any better. And you know, we could throw another 30 or 40 or 50 billion quid at it. It wouldn't make any
we can't because we're selling the Chagos Islands. Oh no, we're not. We're just giving the Chagos Islands away.
And then we're paying 18 billion for the
I just want to talk to you about cigar lounges. You're a man of the world. You drive a nice car. You've got a couple of dogs. You've got he's got a daughter who's the #2 paddle playing person in the country.
She isn't. She's only 15.
Is she?
Yeah, she's the #1 junior player. And
he went, we're hopeful she makes it professionally and we make lots of money and I can retire from selling cars.
I've got her to sign a document or two. Obviously, I'll be taking just a mere 40% of what she earns for the rest of her life.
She's your daughter, yeah?
Yeah, it's fair, isn't
Well, I'm here to tell you that actually she isn't your daughter, unfortunately. DNA test results.
He's back. Jeremy Carl's back.
No. So we talk about, right, in this country, we talk about this government and we talk about, you know, where it's all going to end up. Today we had the other subject of cigar lounges. Have you heard this?
Yeah, no, I have. And I have a view on this, funny enough.
I mean, some people are like, this is right, smoking kills.
But it isn't. So I remember, you remember the smoking ban in the 90s under Tony Blair? I was against the smoking ban, and most of the people I knew were for the smoking ban on the basis that obviously it's healthier. What people that use that argument don't understand and don't seem to be able to articulate is the implications on us as a society when it comes to freedom, our freedom of choice. So if I, in the future, want to go into a pub where there's smokers, well, then I can make that choice.
Yep.
If there are pubs that are non-smoking, I can make that choice too. I think to go as far now, I mean, it's the last bastion of smoking indoors, isn't it? Cigar lounges. There's lots in Jermyn Street.
But you're not going to get secondary. Why can there not be a choice?
It's a choice, but also, who is it harming? I mean, if you go to work, if you decide to go to work for your career in a cigar lounge, you're presumably not going to moan about the cigar smoke because you've already kind of factored that into the fact
and actually,
this is a question of freedom.
Yeah, I mean, I'm that old. I remember you could smoke on a plane. Ludicrous, and I get all of that.
And the cinemas where there's a smoking corner, which is hilarious.
I do think, you know, outside smoking booths and all that, I think that's acceptable for people.
So the extension of the argument is, OK, now you ban cigar lounges, then it starts to extend to alcohol. Then it starts to extend to certain types of food, which we're already seeing by way of sugar tax. Sadiq Khan deciding that he won't actually
They should ban couscous and fill in the Channel Tunnel. Couscous is like rabbit droppings. I don't understand on the bottom of a parrot cage. What is couscous all about?
No one eats it.
No. Do you want to take a call?
Yeah, go on.
Nuala is in Oxfordshire. Is it Nuala? Does that sound right?
No, it's Nuala, actually.
Right, well, that's really embarrassing. It's Nuala, and I'm so sorry. I'm going to obviously get very upset.
Please don't apologise.
I feel quite upset, Nuala.
Most people get it wrong, so don't worry.
Well, now, Russell Quirk can't hear you, which is very interesting, because he hasn't got a headset, so I'm going to repeat. Nuala, just tell me basically what you want to say on Talk Drive.
I heard a gentleman, well, I call him a gentleman earlier, about people employed in the NHS in the 80s and 90s, and even the 70s and 60s, quite honestly. And I worked in the NHS, and I worked with many beautiful black, Indian, Eurasian, wonderful people. So where he got his knowledge from, I do not know. They were very caring. They cared for every patient they had, as I did. I worked also in mental health, which is a very, very hard nursing profession. And one has to sit and listen to these poor people talking about their traumas. And they were absolutely wonderful. So I disagree with this gentleman. I don't know where he comes from.
Nuala, I'm a little bit confused, but I'm getting quite old. You are telling me that a caller came on and said, "Oh yes,"
he was talking about black. I hate that word actually, because there's no such thing as a black person, for God's sake. We're all people at the end of the day. You know, whether we're good, bad, or indifferent. So I hate that word black anyway.
I think, and listen, for what it's worth, I believe that the people that work in the NHS, and I think it's a really difficult subject to tackle, because people will say things and phrases that don't make sense. Here's what I say. I think the nurses and the doctors, and I don't care what your creed, your colour, your religion, people who vocationally do that for people deserve the utmost respect. But, Nuala, I think that over time, and I don't think it's about anything other than wastage. I think there is excessive wastage in the NHS. I think we had a caller on earlier who said it was a disgrace, and I think it's important to highlight that. That doesn't mean that the concept in my mind is wrong, or in any way the people who work on it are wrong. I just think it's become such a huge, inefficient mess that it's important to address that. Would you agree with that?
Yes, and I can also add that wastage has happened for the last 30, 40, 50 years.
And it's just got worse and worse.
So managers have got to address this.
Completely agree. Russell?
And
I heard that call earlier on, and I was surprised.
Hold on. Sorry.
Can I please finish?
You finish, Nuala. You tell him.
I disagree with people being called black. I disagree with people being given a gender. These people I worked with were wonderful. I remember one evening when I was working on a mental health ward, where we had so many problems.
What do you mean? Sorry, darling, I don't mean to rush you. What do you mean you disagree with people being given a gender? What does that mean? Sorry.
a gender of male, female, black, white. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
Well, there are only male and female, aren't there?
As long as they do their job.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that. Nuala, thank you so much. I hate to finish, but it's just a case of having to because of time, but we really appreciate your call. Russ, what were you going to say briefly?
That I didn't agree with the caller earlier on who said that the inefficiencies in the NHS were because of ethnicity.
No, I don't agree with that either.
I don't agree with that. I think it's because of the
Nuala's
carriers.
right.
Yeah, Nuala's right. It is the fact that nearly 50% of people in the NHS now are not clinical, the fact there's no accountability, and no one really is watching anybody else to make sure that they are accounting for standards. At the same time, though, we do have to take the NHS off a pedestal and be able to criticise it in order to improve it.
Couldn't agree more. 0344 499 1000. Somebody's just sent me a text about an angry beaver. We're back in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. He's here from 6, Julia from 10. David Bull sounding great this week in for Ian Collins from 1 o'clock. And we're back with Drive Time tomorrow. I'm working on a Thursday. Hurrah! Jez, I really enjoyed your live steer on ITV, honest and heartfelt. It was nice to see Mike Graham in the front row. Margaret in Birmingham. Susie says, I enjoyed last night on ITV as well. Thank you very much. Sue Timmons, what a great name in Norfolk. Can you please stop showing that clip of Starmer giving the letter from the King to Trump? It's vomit-inducing. I don't think I've shown it today at all. What are you talking about? Kevin, I'm sick. What? Hi, Ryan. I'm 6'5" as well. Kyle is only calling you out because he's small. Jeremy, I've been waiting for a hip replacement for over 4 years. I had an operation booked 2 months ago. I went to see the surgeon and he said I needed resurfacing and had to see a specialist. I had an appointment booked for April, then Starmer announced 2 million new hospital appointments. The same day, I received an email putting my appointment back 2 months. He hasn't got 2 million extra appointments. He's just cancelled 2 million of them. He lies about absolutely everything. I am hacked off to the back teeth. 0344. Oh, Paul in Dorset. Jez, throwing money at the NHS is absolutely bleeding pointless. So many of you want to be on. On the subject of a terrorising hawk, says Gary, I was on a weekend trip to the River Tay in Scotland. He was in Scotland as a youngster whilst in the Scouts. He was a young scout and he got terrorised by a very angry beaver. Imagine being a 13-year-old male scout being terrorised by an angry beaver. We say a very good evening to our royal correspondent live from America. I love her. Kinsey Schofield, hello.
I feel like there was a missed opportunity for an angry beaver segue, but here I am.
Well, listen, I don't know what you mean by that. How are you, Kinsey Schofield, you lovely creature? Can I just be honest? Did I miss a birthday of yours, Schofield?
You did. I'm now a geriatric. I get discounts at Denny's. I'm 40 years old now.
No, that is... You're not 40. You're looking... I thought, literally, genuinely, when I heard, and I missed because I was rushing around like a head, I thought you were 30 at the very least. I'm not having you as 40, whereas I'm 60.
No, you're literally not 60 yet. I noticed that too. You're not 60 yet. Enjoy.
Nothing about you don't look it, like I've just said. Just you're not 60 yet. Anyway.
No, you know that I think that you could be in a boy band today. Band.
I probably could, although I'd probably be arrested. Can I just ask you? We can't go through today without talking about Meghan. Obviously Harry, he's had a particularly hard time. He's been outed as a homophobic, misogynistic racist against.
I don't think homophobic, but
well, I'm just going to add that because that's what they added, and the point that I don't know if I made this to you. I think it was Robert Jobson the other day. That whole Harry and Meghan thing that's coming out of this Centre Bali Charities. Do you remember when all of the rubbish happened? They were, we hate the press. We'll only have an official source through Scooby-Doo or whatever. Now he's that we'll never do sources. We'll always be. They've said nothing about him being a bully. Nothing at all. Just unofficial comments from people associated with them. Today, shocking news, my friends, and news we need to share with you. Why are we doing this? Meghan Markle's jam is going to cost nearly 11 quid a jar as she launched, as ever today, the Duchess, she's not a Duchess, no, has released the long-awaited lifestyle brand items, which she first teased a year ago under a different name today, with the fruit preserves becoming an emblematic theme of the range. Of age. I've been a broadcaster for a long, long time, and I'm talking about Meghan Markle's jam.
Well, I have a scoop for you. So Meghan Markle's jam sold out, and she's taking a victory lap.
Sorry, hold on. What? She sold 10 jars or what?
Thank you. So products were produced in small quantities of inventory so that they can claim she sold out quickly. This was the Kardashians' move for the longest time. It's easy to sell out if you don't have a lot of product available in the first place. And based on how chaotic the introduction of this launch was, I suspect that's exactly the case. The strategy is called scarcity marketing or artificial scarcity, and it creates the illusion of high demand by limiting supply, making a product seem more exclusive or desirable. This tactic is, used all the time here in Hollywood.
But more than that, at the risk of wanting to sound grumpy as I become 60, she was once the Duchess of Sussex, and now I'm sitting here talking about her bloody jam. Nobody should give a shit. It's ridiculous.
No, you're absolutely right. But she sat down with the New York Times to promote this and said, I have to work. Well, that's what happens when you marry someone that has little to no ambition.
I agree.
You do have to work.
I agree.
And, she's trying to justify all of these different outlets and moving parts by saying, I just have to work.
They haven't had a good time. His charity engulfed by cash fears, insiders claim. There's going to be more coming out on that. And then the Netflix stuff. I love this. This is just, to me, sums it up again. Those working on her launch, her as-ever launch, admit we're over it. It wasn't a great experience. Do you think there will ever be a moment where Harry and Meghan ever get some good publicity, Ken?
Well, I mean, maybe, because they did ask those exact same people to sign NDAs to keep secrets, surrounding this. But that's what Meghan's trying to do by limiting the supply of goods and being able to say she sold out by shooting 2 series back to back and being able to go online while people are destroying her, saying, guess what? We got a season 2. You didn't get a season 2. It already existed. Netflix is desperate to get any type of money back from you. The return on investment has not been there. So she's trying to create, and Jeremy, Prince Harry gave up his family, gave up his friends, hundreds of friends, gave up his entire lifestyle, his culture, the royal traditions. And Meghan can't even come out to defend her husband, who is being destroyed right now, is a bully from Senabale, his own charity. I'm sorry, but Prince Harry, look in the mirror. look at what you've given up for this selfish, totally self-consumed individual that doesn't even post pictures of you on her Instagram account.
Mate, I could not agree with that more. And as I said earlier in the week, the Centre Bali woman is a very powerful woman of colour who's a very successful woman. And all I've heard from both of those pair, they've dug into the royal family about racism and all those things. And sometimes, be careful what you wish for. Kins, I could talk to you forever, darling. I'm sorry I missed your birthday. Happy belated 40th birthday. I don't believe it's 40. We'll speak very soon. Thank you so much indeed. It's 8 minutes to 7 o'clock. We're live across the UK. This is Talk Drive.
Trump made very clear when he came into office, I'm going to make America great again.
Yeah.
He was looking at jobs, he was looking at tax reductions for his citizens. This is what he said he was going to do. We've seen how he sort of postures, we've seen how he peacocks, and I don't think he's looking for protectionism.
Right.
I think he's saying, I need now a balance of trade. We've been open, we've allowed your goods to come in, but you know what? You're not doing, reciprocity for us, and that's what I'm looking to do.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, Kev O'Sullivan here from 7 o'clock. One final call. We're going to Leicester very quickly. Robin, couple of minutes. What you got, pal?
Right, I've got several things. The reason why is, as you've already highlighted, that 2017 Theresa May was cuddling up to the EU. They're obsessed by chlorinated chicken, but they don't realise their salad is washed in chlorine.
What?
Also,
what?
The salad, when they're having their salads in the winter, they're also...
Right, what's that got to do with Theresa May? I'm slightly confused. I'm not being... sorry, mate, I'm a bit confused, Robin.
Well, Theresa May turned down a deal with...
Ah, yes, she turned down the deal. Yeah, absolutely. 2017, Theresa May was offered a trade deal with Trump and turned it down, and look at where we're now. Yes, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Let's go to, I think it's Sussex. Anne, you're on Talk Drive. Hello.
Hello to you again. I rang in earlier. It was about the high immigration, the effects on the country, especially the health service when we have so many people to look after now. But the problem is that I have is why, in France, they do not get all the support that they get here.
That's why they come here.
Why do we have to continue to provide everything for people who've just come into the country, and the people who live here and have paid taxes or served in our forces? They're the bottom of the list. And it seems that we are meant, it's a deliberate policy that the West are supposed to take care of all the poor people in the world.
Do you know, and
the West,
and I completely, I have to go, but I could not agree with you any more. And I don't understand it, and something has to change. Thank you so much indeed for your call. That is Anne in Sussex. We're standing by for the legend that is Kev O'Sullivan. I've been nervous about this for the last 24 hours. I can go on ITV and I can take up, but there was one TV
I watched
critic.
it last night. Get a Life Stories.
There was one TV critic who used to rinse me and call me terrible things years ago. Kevin O'Sullivan, Mike Graham's made me ask you, what did you make of last night's TV?
I've got to be honest with you, I was on air. I haven't watched it yet, but I've already renamed the show. Get a Life Stories. With Jeremy Kyle.
Brilliant.
Seriously, how did it go? I'm going to watch it.
I'm not talking to you now.
What do you mean?
No,
come
you've
on,
upset
man.
me.
I'm on air.
Were you?
Of course. Yeah, I'm on air every night from 7 until 10.
I thought you finished last night at 9. No, I'm joking. That was all right. Have a watch. Let me know what you think.
I will do. No,
listen, I'm not. You're going to tell me I'm wrong.
Numbers, by the way. Good
Thank you. You're telling me I'm wrong. Trade tariffs. Most people, until the money's in their pocket. It's the NHS is a disaster. It's the French taking 500 million and still being screwed. It's the fact you can't have a cigar in a cigar lounge anymore because this Marxist government's going to tell us what we can wear. That's what matters to people, buddy.
I agree with you. I think we've got to wait and see in terms of Donald's tariffs. I mean, what it does prove, what worries me, we have a delusional Prime Minister who's going around saying, I've got a special relationship with Donald Trump, we're really good friends and we're going to get a special deal. And we're not. We never came close to it. So we have a delusional Prime Minister who is fantasising about some kind of deal that we could have got. He thinks the same about Donald Trump thinks the same about Keir Starmer as he does the rest of the EU leaders, that he is woke, weak, feeble and an enemy of free speech. That's why we're not getting a special deal.
Very worrying.
Very worrying.
What have you got very briefly?
Well, we've got a